for all the blessings and gifts you have given us. It is good to recognize how different we are, our talents, our dreams, our backgrounds, our occupations. No one is exactly like anyone else. Even our thumbprint and our voice track tell us how unique we are. Yet we thank you that we can make the differences and utilize them for the good of our community. In our differences, we can think the same thoughts and move together towards a common goal. We thank you for our individuality and also our common bond that works towards the betterment of the city of Eastpointe. It is in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that prayer. That was beautiful. We will start tonight with a presentation from the Detroit Institute of Arts with the director, Pam Lavers. Please. Good evening.
Good evening. Can everyone hear? Is it working? All right, wonderful. My name is Pam Lavers. I just recently joined the Detroit Institute of Arts. Before that, I've worked in several capacities in Macomb County, last in the County Executive's Office in Macomb County Government, and then before that for City of Fraser, worked with your Public Safety Director for many, many years, and good to see familiar faces and back here. And also with me is Ian Rapnicki. He is also our community outreach. He works at the DIA. He works in connecting with the community in outreach work as our manager of community outreach. Ian, welcome. Come on up. All right, so I know that you have a full agenda, so I'll just run through this PowerPoint pretty quickly. And if you have questions afterwards, just let me know. So again, thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of council, and our residents here in Eastpointe to be able to come up here and speak to you today. The purpose tonight is to provide you an overview of the many ways that the DIA serves the residents of Macomb County and to highlight some of our ways that we engage with the citizens of Eastpointe. And after I go through my presentation, please feel free to ask questions if you have any. And I'll let Ian talk about this slide.
Yes. My former capacity at the museum before community engagement was in education and gallery teaching. So for the last 5 years, I got to really know the collection and walk around with kids, take them on tours, free tours for Macomb residents with free transportation. So we've seen a huge increase in students, and I got the joy of talking with them about stuff like this. So engagement is easy when you have a collection like the collection we have at the museum. And you just in this slide, you can see things ranging from 2,500 years old, like this, the little creature from the city of Babylon, the Ishtar Gate, all the way up to the piece by Kehinde Wiley, The Man on a Horse, which is from 2007, and everything in between. You might recognize another familiar face, Kermit, up there. We just brought him out of storage. Very delicate, very fragile. He'll be on view until the end of March, but that's an original Jim Henson prototype from 1969. So we're really blessed to have that incredible piece of puppet history. We have others. Howdy Doody, original Howdy Doody's also on view right now. So our puppet collection is incredible and often overlooked, but come visit Kermit while you can. He won't stay out long, and he'll go back in storage and safety for a long time because he can't bear the elements. But briefly, we've got Vincent van Gogh, the first museum in the nation to own a Vincent van Gogh in the 1920s. Our world-famous Rivera Court murals, kind of a shrine to the working class. That's our crown jewel, really. And then Bruegel, the wedding dance, which is a fun-looking scene. And there's a special exhibition about that up right now, so come check that out. All the exhibitions right now are free for residents, so come on in. And now that I'm done bragging, I'll pass it back to Pam.
So what I want to talk about is just some of the core services that we provide the residents of Eastpointe, specifically free general admission, free field trips, including transportation, senior programming, and including transportation for our seniors. I'll get into more numbers and information as I go into the slide, and some of our community partnerships that we've created. In 2012, we served over 2 million tri-county visits to the DIA, which is a wonderful number that we'd like to talk about, and it's an ever-increasing number of visitors. And the second area that I wanted to talk about was students on field trips and free bus transportation. The DIA is a leader in education, providing free field trips, transportation, access to tens of thousands of students across Metro Detroit. Since 2012, we had almost 440,000 visitors and students come through the museum. And in Macomb County, we had over 8,000 field trips scheduled. Some of the schools in Eastpointe that came to visit us, Bellevue Elementary, we had visitors from Eastpointe 8th Grade Academy, Eastpointe Community High School, Eaton Academy, the list goes on and on. So we're happy to host our students and residents when they come visit the DIA. The next area we'd like to talk about is what we provide for our teachers and our educators. We provide free development services with our teachers. We provide what we call first looks for our teachers, which are they're invited to attend early viewings of new galleries and exhibitions, workshops where teachers are introduced to visual thinking strategies, and provides methods for facilitating conversations about artwork that's proven to increase listening and critical skills thinking. Also, I forgot to mention, we did provide a packet with the PowerPoint in front of you and some other interesting items as well. In 2017, we also created a teacher advisory group where we have teachers help in building our content and teacher needs, and they provide input for us. The next area we wanted to just highlight is our senior groups that visited, and senior transportation. Thursdays at the museum is what we'd like to call it for adults over 55. Every Thursday afternoon, the museum's hopping. If you haven't been there on a Thursday, you should come by. There's so many seniors that are enjoying the different services that we provide, and we kind of rotate items, what services we provide for our seniors. We'll have a film showing, and we'll have art making, so different Thursdays we have different events that we provide for them. We also, let's see, we had over 35 groups from Macomb County from the seniors that came in. And the next area we want to talk about is our community partnerships. We're working to build community partnerships in Macomb County. This picture here on the screen is a mural that we did with City of Romeo last year. We also did a mural in Sterling Heights, and we're continuing to build relationships to continue these partnerships in ways that we can help enhance the living and life of your residents here in the city of Eastpointe. Let's see. Inside Out. I remember when I walked and met a past mayor here many years ago, and you had an Inside Out showing, what do you call the little garden area next to City Hall? There's a little strip. Is there a name for that?
Yeah,
There's
Children's Garden?
That's at the Children's Garden. You had Inside Out there posted a few years ago, and it was just so nice to see all over Eastpointe. And so you've had Inside Out here several times, and I know that you're going to hopefully sign up and be a host of our Inside Out programs in future years to come. And that picture there at the bottom is my mother-in-law. Took that at one of the pictures, so I like to use my family when I can. Let's see, and that's really it. I went kind of fast, but I know that you had a busy calendar and schedule and a room full of folks, and open it up for questions.
Any questions, council?
I don't have any questions, but I just want to say, and also the DIA has partnered with our Arts and Cultural Diversity Commission. They partnered with them during Shamrock Day, and they also are hoping maybe to possibly get a mural done in Eastpointe at some time and partner with them for that. And but yeah, they've definitely, and they're also supplying pictures for the Arts and Cultural Diversity Commission's website throughout the month of February. There'll be artwork posted, provided by the DIA on the Arts and Cultural website. So we do appreciate it. We definitely do.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mayor, I just had one question.
Yes, sir.
Could you share information about the upcoming millage then that'll be on the March ballot, so everybody is aware?
The millage is on March, or the initiative shows up on the ballot on March 10th, and it's for a 0.2 mil renewal of what you've been paying since 2012. So the amount doesn't change.
Thank you. And I know you have an upcoming event for county leaders. I'll definitely be there. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so County Leaders Night, we host a special event to make sure that our leaders in the communities and our government and elected officials have an opportunity to visit the Detroit Institute of Arts. And the flyer is in a packet, so if you haven't been able to, if you're not familiar with it, check out the flyer. Feel free to call me. We'd love to see you there. It's a wonderful event. We have 2 exhibitions. We have several exhibitions open for the public, but that evening for that event, there's going to be 2 exhibitions. We are hosting the Bruegel that's in the picture up top, the wedding dance, and we also have Frida Kahlo is a guest of honor, and Salvador Dali will be a guest of honor as well. So we look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Seeing you again.
Thanks.
Now, before we go, before we go on, I know we're doing the Michigan Government Finance Officers Association. Then I want to add to the agenda a brief presentation by Ms. Courtney. Is she in the building? I need you to give that flash drive to our Assistant City Manager, Mr. Fairbrother. She's going to go over why Eastpointe needs PR and updated websites and et cetera, so we can have better communication with the residents and outside cities and beyond. We're going to do that after the CAFR award. Are those people in the building? The Michigan Government Finance Officers Association? Is anybody out there for this?
I did not receive any email that they wouldn't be here, but they're not. So
Okay, well, we can go on with
Yeah.
the presentation. Ma'am, can you step up so we can go with introduce yourself and let us know who you are?
Madam Mayor, if maybe while they're setting up for a second here, Mr. Blum, did you want to maybe share what the award is about that we're going to receive? Well, that we are receiving.
it's right here in this box. The CAFR is the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. It's our audited financials, but in a very specific format that the GFOA has designed. It is intended to be best practice. It is intended to be transparent to the residents and informative to the residents, more than just a boring audit report. We had submitted this for the award in the past. We missed it by one particular item the first time around. So this was the second submission, and we did win the award. This is for the 2018 fiscal year. So it's a year and a half old now, but it just takes that long to get through the process. And later tonight you'll be receiving and filing the 2019 report, which will also be submitted for the award. But it's just a, I guess, so that everybody knows we're doing things correctly and accurately and in an informative manner. So if you'd like to see the little plaque. I brought it with me. I was supposed to hand it to them so they can hand it back. So this is the award.
Wow.
So it's very similar to the budget award, and so going forward, we'll get little stickers.
Okay.
Well, good job to you, Mr. Blum.
And my staff.
Yes, and your staff. Okay, yes, please. Tell us your name and et cetera, please.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Courtney Lewis. I'm a resident of Eastpointe. I'm here today to speak on the importance of public relations. I'm aware that that's something we never had in Eastpointe thus far, and it's very necessary for communication and ways to network and build our social network as far as community outreach. And here's a brief slide I have. A family town, Eastpointe. I say the best and fastest way to communicate in our society is via social media, and that's a free tool that we need to take more advantage of outside of just for social use. It would be great to use to build our community, neighborhood, neighborhood watch, our community events, reaching out to the youth and millennials, because we have a lot of millennials in the city. We need to show how diverse Eastpointe really is. And here's a brief slide on it. A lot of people question what is PR. Here's a definition from the Public Relations Society of America. It's a strategic communication process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between organizations and their publics. And here are just a couple images of Mayor Owens and some residents in the city, just to show, say if you look at today, Eastpointe's website, you don't really get a gist of what our city really is about. It's a lot of giving back, a lot of activities with children, and a lot of people aren't aware of our new mayor and the activities we have to offer. That offers engagement, relationship building, communication, public perception, brand awareness, crisis management, and event coordination. These are a couple statistics of benefits of PR. Anyone have any questions about exactly what is PR? No? Okay. Well, millennials are 247% more likely to be influenced by blogs or social networking. We have this thing, our iPhones or Androids. It's the tool we use every single day. I know for local businesses and entrepreneurs, we're more likely to go straight to their social media sites or websites to check their credibility, and that'd be a great resource for our local entrepreneurs as well. 80% of business decision makers prefer to get company information in a series of articles versus an advertisement. Our specialty with PR is getting brand awareness and getting your publicity. So like having the news here is a great example, having different outlets outside of Eastpointe cover our events or cover the latest news will give us more credibility as a city. 86% of people skip TV advertisements. I know really mostly people believe in just streaming nowadays. It's a lot easier to watch on the go versus, investing money into advertisements for radio, and we have satellite. 44% of direct mail is never opened. Who just sometimes just toss your junk mail, or, we want to move and be more eco-friendly, eliminate the paper trail. And I highlight the first time the city of Eastpointe will have a PR plan and strategy. How do you know if we need something or something works if we never had it before? So for 2020, I say to implement, new strategies and use our entrepreneurs locally to make our city even better. And here's a quote from Bill Gates: "If I was down to my last dollar, I'll spend it on public relations." Here's a mock-up of a social media page I created for Instagram. We have our Facebook page, but it's not getting that much activity currently or engagement. But we're lacking social presence on Instagram. That's a big and more popular social media to the younger residents and millennials. And this is just a mock-up of what it would look like. And it's 100% cost friendly. If, we didn't like the direction it's going in, we could always come back, regroup, and, change it. It's also 100% eco-friendly. You could keep up with the latest news and updates. Residents will stay connected, and we could also live stream. Yes, it's so great that you guys are here today, but say on those snowy days, we will be able to watch this meeting from home or give your feedback from a live stream where we all could come together and still make the difference. It also broadened our target audience and, of course, increase engagement. And here's just a brief experience I have of clients I've done PR for here in the city. Google at Little Caesars Arena, Detroit vs. Everybody, Dr. Sabrina, Fox 2, and a couple others. Pretty much our goal would be to increase our social media presence and give a facelift to our current Eastpointe website to really show how we really represent Eastpointe. And that's about it. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask or contact me and, of course, Mayor Owens regarding any social media or website questions. And we love feedback. The more feedback we get, the better the results. Thank you.
Yeah. Ms. Courtney, excuse me, and you are a Eastpointe resident, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How long you been living in Eastpointe?
I've been living in Eastpointe for about 6 years now.
6 years. And how long you been in public relations?
I actually been in public relations for 8 years. I have my bachelor's degree from Western Michigan University in public relations and Spanish.
Thank you so much. If you have a chance, can you email all of council and also city manager and let us know?
For sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
That was great. Thank you so much for that. Next item on the agenda are the proclamations. We have 2 tonight, one for Black History Month and one for No Violence Day. Since the people are here for Code 22 that represents no violence, please come to the podium and let us know more, let the residents know about it. Ms. Ovella Davis, please step up to the podium. Thank you for coming out, you and your team, and give us some information. You can.
Yes, my name is Marty Prenn, and I want to introduce Ovella Davis. I'm an Eastpointe resident, and I've been involved with her organization for about 2 years now and was impressed with the concept behind it. It was first put together and presented to the city of Detroit. I believe the mayor at the time was Dave Bing, and then Mayor Mike Duggan picked up on the concept as well and signed a proclamation. And after looking at the potential that's there to help make Eastpointe a safe community, I felt it was important to see about getting this resolution, or proclamation rather, presented to the board so that the residents of Eastpointe could understand what the concept is, and again, to make it a safe community. And it's a mindset. And earlier today, just to show you how far this goes, I was able to call and talk to a lady. She was one of the 5 girls that was a victim of the bombing of the church where Martin Luther King was back in 1963. And she was the only girl that had survived. And she called me today, and I was able to share with her what Code 22 is about. And sometime in June or July, we're looking to have her come here and to tell her story of what it was to survive during the civil rights time, so that we can learn what peace and unity is all about. So at this time, I'd like to present Pastor Ovella Davis, and she's going to say what Code 22 is all about because she's actually the creator of this back in 2010. Pastor?
Thank you.
Honorable Mayor and to City Council, citizens of Eastpointe, good evening to everyone. I am Pastor Ovella, and I am the founder of the United Communities of America. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, community-based organization. We are focused on the reduction of crime through the promotion of peace, healing, and positive change. In 2010, we approached our own City Council due to the increase in violence that we saw in urban Detroit, if there was some way that we could create a consciousness that people will make peace important again. It seems like that we're in a time where everyone is enthralled with violence and negative engagement, and it's not just for the criminals, it's everywhere. It just seems like tension, people are driving and angry. So how could we do something to create a consciousness for peace? And we came up with the 22nd day as a day that we could focus on to begin 24 hours of peace. And so when we made the proclamation, the proposal to Detroit City Council, they unanimously agreed, and we received our first proclamation from Mayor Dave Bing. When Mayor Mike Duggan came into office, he adopted the proclamation, and as of today, we have 10 other cities that have adopted Code 22. The goal is 24 hours of violence every 22nd day of the month, and our vision is to create a national no violence day that every person, this is not a black, white, gender, or religious issue. I think peace is a human issue. And if we all could agree, we could use a little more peace at some point. And we have seen some amazing results from Code 22. We do have some cards here that we pass out. These are our yard signs, and we did a yard sign campaign this summer because my goal was to see how could we reach the ones in the community with the guns. We're always talking about no violence, and it seems like we're preaching to the choir. How can we reach those that are in the community, that are in gangs, that are engaged in violence? And I was able to meet with a couple of people who were out in the gangs, had previously been in gangs. They made a connection with what's called the red zone, which is a zip code that is a high violence, high crime. And they adopted Code 22. And in July 22nd of 2019, we had 3 gangs march together on behalf of Code 22, vowing to have 24 hours of peace in the red zone. It was a phenomenal event. There were over 800 people showed up, and they were literally rival gangs that marched together, and this was the sign for the day, Code 22. We were also blessed, we have a program called Students for Peace, to see if we could to get the students to adopt Code 22, to get them to focus on how they can stop bullying and violence for just one day on the 22nd of the month. And we approached we actually went into 6 schools, but last year's school was Ecorse High School and Roseville High School. These 2 schools competed to see if they could stop violence and fighting for one day on the 22nd. They both achieved the goal. There was no violence, no bullying reported. And we continued the program to the end of the school year. To Ecorse reported a 50% reduction in violence because of Code 22. And Roseville, their violence was reduced from 19 fights the year before to 12 this year, which is still a lot of fights, but there was a reduction. So our goal here tonight is I want to thank Marty Print, who is a resident who has been helping us to push Code 22. It's a consciousness. It's not just for those that are engaged in violence. It's a human effort. And so one of the things we asked to do on the 22nd is that for you, let's just say if you decided on the 22nd, every 22nd day of the month, our family, we're gonna have dinner together. The kids can't go downstairs to their room. We have to eat together and talk about how we can make the home more peaceful. The churches, there's something for every sector of society to do on the 22nd, even the merchants to say, hey, we're gonna honor the code. So every 22nd, there's a certain percentage discount that you get by coming in on the 22nd, because we're gonna do something to say we want to participate in 24 hours of peace. So we're very excited that we've made this proposal to Eastpointe City Council and Mayor. I'm asking you to also adopt Code 22 as a citywide day of peace and healing.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. So the City of Eastpointe Proclamation, No Violence Day, on each 22nd day is a day for peace, healing, and rest. Whereas each 22nd day of the month is officially proclaimed citywide as a day of peace and healing in Eastpointe. Each citizen is asked to honor the 22nd by promoting peace in their circles of influence. And whereas each 22nd day since October of 2010, the United Communities of America has focused on creating peace with an emphasis on those who have been victims of violence. Each month, families are invited to gather at an event that helps citizens turn their pain into power through practicing forgiveness and the discipline of making positive changes. And whereas the UCOA, which is the United Communities of America, is a community organization focused on the reduction of crime through the promotion of peace, healing, and positive change. Led by its founder, Pastor Ovella Davis, the Thou Shalt Not Kill message is on the forefront of a national movement to present God's word over violence. And whereas honoring the 22nd day means the elimination of all negative emotions and intentionally allowing peace to flow through each individual for one day. Those engaged in violence are asked to stop and honor the code for at least that one day with the goal of no violence across America. Now, therefore, the mayor and the city council for the city of Eastpointe do hereby proclaim the 22nd of each month a day of Thou Shalt Not Kill, a day for peace, healing, and rest. Thank you. And I would definitely like you to work with our director of public safety as well, because we have a neighborhood watch, and that would really help with, overseeing our neighborhood watch with no violence, because we're working with the community and things like that. And also our superintendent and going into our schools. So please, thank you so much. If you have any information, you can leave it out there on the table. If anyone likes to pick up some of your flyers, that'd be awesome.
Thank you, Councilman.
Could I have a couple of your cards?
Yeah, I'm gonna read this one too. It's already been signed. Did y'all want to take a picture or anything like that? Y'all want to take a picture or anything? Yeah? Would you like to take a picture with us? Okay, come on. Yeah. All the council, you can.
Oh, okay,
Oh, you can step in the front.
What?
You can step in the front.
okay.
Okay, next will be the City of Eastpointe Proclamation of Black History Month, February 2020 of this month. And I'm going to go ahead and read this because I know we talked about this sometime last year and I brought it back this year. Hi.
The Arts and Cultural Diversity Commission is here to be excited about Black History Month proclamation. We wrote it, and our council liaison, Sarah Lucido, had it put on the agenda, and we're really excited tonight.
All right.
So do you want to go down there and read it with them?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I'm gonna correct her. I was the one who actually brought it to council to put it on the agenda because I talked about it last year. but they supported me. So, going forward, the City of Eastpointe Proclamation of Black History Month is the significance of Black history in our community, our state, and our nation. Whereas the City of Eastpointe recognized the month of February as nationally celebrated as Black History Month, which dates to 1926, when Dr. Carter G. Woodson set aside a special period of time in February to recognize the heritage and achievement of Black Americans. Whereas the City of Eastpointe acknowledged the importance of locally elected or appointed men and women of African American descent representing our community. Whereas the City of Eastpointe recognizes the importance of commemorating Black History Month as it acknowledges the achievements of African Americans throughout our nation's history and encourages the continuation of its celebration to raise the awareness of their accomplishments. And whereas the City of Eastpointe denounces prejudice and unfair discrimination in any form as an affront to our fundamental principles. And whereas the City of Eastpointe encourages the continued spread of knowledge regarding our Black history, not limited to a single month during the year. Now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and City Council declare the month of February 2020 as Black History Month in the City of Eastpointe and urge residents to recognize the contribution made by people of African American descent within our community.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
would you indulge me for, so I could say a few words?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Did you want to do the roll?
Thank you.
Did you want to do the roll call first, or you just?
Well, all right, after the roll call.
Yes, sir.
I'm ready.
Can we do the roll call, Mr. Fairbrother, please?
Councilperson DeMonico. Here. Councilperson Lucido.
Here.
Councilperson Curley.
Here.
Mayor Owens.
Here.
Councilperson Baker.
Here.
Yes, sir. Mr. Curley, you want to say
Thank you,
something?
Madam Mayor. Just a couple words before we get into the agenda. Tomorrow's the 22nd, right? So we're going to start tomorrow, and I would love to see tomorrow nothing negative on Facebook or all those other crazy things that we have in our city. No negative stuff. Hold it to the 23rd if you have to. So, also, Black History Month. A gentleman named of Boris Dory Miller. How many recall the name? December 7th, 1941. An African-American seaman. Pearl Harbor was attacked. And he grabbed a gun and started shooting. And after it was over, he said, I think I got one of the planes. But he was a hero all through that whole day. And 2 years later, in 1943, he was killed. Well, another ship went down, and he was killed. But here's what's happened. Does anybody know? The United States of America will start building an American aircraft carrier named after Doris Miller. Isn't that wonderful? That's great. And along with the loving one another, we should love everybody all the time, and let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Curley. I think we all needed to hear that. Next item is the approval of the agenda.
Madam Mayor, I motion to approve the agenda.
So oh,
We got a motion and support. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Lucido,
Yes.
Councilperson DeMonico,
Yes.
Councilperson Curley,
Yes.
Mayor Owens,
Yes.
Councilperson Baker.
Yes.
Next is the hearing of the public. You will stand up and talk at the podium. You get 3 minutes. I will let you know we have 30 seconds left. Please state your full name and your residence. Right now, the hearing of the public is open. Yes, please. You're welcome. And one more thing, I'm sorry, I'm not timing you yet. Please address the council and not any individual, or I will end it, and I will have you sit down. So this is not a personal attack on any one of us. We are addressed as a council, we work as a body.
Yes, ma'am. My concern is the Eastpointe Way's potential of container home projects that was in the Wednesday's East Sider. I would like to know who the people are in the community who agreed to potentially losing value in their home and to be made a prisoner in their home. I understand you said you want to help. Well, I think it's a great way to use what Eastpointe has to improve the lives of others. And over here, Mr. Jeff Lubeck says, if you do that, that would be detrimental to property values. We are homeowners, tax-based community residents. We have gone through the 2008 housing crisis. We lost our equity. The market has just come back, and this has been brought to us. We want to make this city a place where decent people want to live. I'm a 20-year resident. I have grown accustomed to a good quality of life. Kim Holman, the Economic Development Manager, along with you, Madam Mayor, and the City Council, needs to produce the signatures of the community who bought into losing the value in their homes. If they are renters, they do not count. They can leave whenever they want. We are the ones who will lose dollars, and this does not make sense. There are apartments on Kelly with for rent signs. That's affordable living, and there are parks all around if they want to take their kids there. Those apartments can be subsidized for lower income people, and the homeowners would not detrimentally lose property value as it states in the East Sider. I have a petition that I have drawn up, and I would like for anyone who is opposed to losing your property value after we've worked so hard. I'm 62 years old. No one gave me anything. I earned everything I have. I mean, I had a child. I walked out there 10 miles back and forth, going back and forth to school to achieve what I have. So I'm asking you to reconsider this proposal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We can talk, you guys can step outside of there and talk. We are still in the council meeting. We try to do a level of respect, please. Thank you so much. And we don't answer any questions till after, at the end of the meeting. Is that okay? Okay, and you get it, if you need another, you have 30 seconds left, but you stop. But if you want to talk additionally, no, not 30 minutes, no, you already sat down, so it's over now, but you get an additional 3 minutes at the end, and when we're almost in closing, we'll respond if council chooses to respond, okay? All right.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Ford, and I live on Juliana in Eastpointe, and I'm also a real estate agent. So I just wanted to speak to what she said. You don't lose property value because they build a container home in your area. When real estate agents do comparables, it's based on the same house. If it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, it's got to be a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that they compare it with. They wouldn't use a container home to compare against your home, so you would not lose home value. I don't know where people get that. I understand that people think that, but that's not the way it is. Also, in the city, every city is required to zone or to have areas for low-income people. Every city. I don't care where you are. So it doesn't matter where you live, they have to do that. They're required to do that by law. So it doesn't matter where you live, they have to have areas for low-income people. That is a fact. Now, I've been doing real estate since 2005. I've been an agent. I went through the market falling and the market coming back. The way agents assess homes is based on what your home is like. They cannot compare a home that's not the same size, not the same type, not brick. If your home is brick, they got to compare brick. Can't use they can't use any other type of property. So if somebody told you that that's going to devalue your home, they're not telling you the truth. That's all I got to say.
Thank you so much. No, ma'am.
No.
No, ma'am. That's not how it works here. Thank you for that statement, okay? Yes, ma'am. Name and residency, please, first.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Patricia.
Speak in the microphone.
Yes, thank you.
My name is Patricia, and I've lived in Eastpointe for 20 years, and I'm just seeking some clarity around, I think it's Charter 50-35, where the vendors can come in for 42 days to sell whatever and wherever. So I'm just trying to understand, does that mean that they can get a permit to sell whatever goods that they want within a 42-day period? Are those consecutive days? Do they do it like, mainly it came to my attention this summer. So I was just trying to understand, where can they sell the goods? Who approved those? What does Eastpointe gain from a vendor coming in? And is there are there any taxes? Is there anything that they have to pay for the permit? And I just think that some type of limitation on the number of days. I know this is supposed to be a temporary permit, but a temporary for 42 days, and I've just noticed that it was going on a long time this summer. So I'm just trying to get a clarity around that and what does that mean. And I think that has a lot to do also with public relations and the public's perception of Eastpointe, because that's, I noticed at 8 Mile and Gratiot area, that was a lot of that this summer. So that's all.
Thank you. We'll give you an answer after. I hope you stay to the end. Thank you. Please, next. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Carol Reed, and I'm born and raised in East Detroit, Michigan, and now in Eastpointe. And today, I brought you some information about a new killer coming to town. When we think about MFers, we kind of have a little slang term for them, and what we have coming into our town, though, is EMFs, and they're in the cell phone towers for 5G Wi-Fi. And I've been studying about the dangers of 5G Wi-Fi, and these are not our cell phones, but they're the big towers going up. And just in 1999, iPhones weren't even invented and out on the public yet, but now everybody's got them. And when you get an iPhone or a cell phone, you sign a no liability in your contract, and you probably didn't even know it. And the cell phones are now used for cameras, GPS, clocks, internet, music, radio, TV, and movies. And you can download a movie really fast. But they don't tell you that these giant antennas going up that are disguised as pine trees, cactus, and there was just a pole that came up on Oak and Piper right across the street sideways from my son's house. That alarmed me. And there's also a big one by the police department. City Hall, I think, has one out here. I'm not sure what that is. There's by city senior housing, and many of the street corners are popping up kind of in the middle of the night. And when the guys even install them, they have to have hazmat suits on. And the towers are dangerous, especially to humans, babies, pets, elderly people. They're killing the bees, the birds, the trees, the eggs in little girls, and the sperm in little boys. 5G was invented by Israel as a tool of war, and it's not even used in Israel. If you aim a signal toward a crowd of the electromagnetic field, it'll stun them, and it'll burn their eyes where they have to back up. And this is all over the internet, and and it's being used by the military now. And they placed cell phones in beehives. And there was 5 beehives. They placed cell phone into 2 beehives. The bees that were in the hives that had the cell phones couldn't return to their hive.
30 seconds, ma'am.
Okay. And so it's very dangerous. I want to bring your awareness up about it. I brought you a handout. I'll be glad to give anybody this if they contact me afterwards. And thank you for listening to me, and I'm not crazy.
Thank you, ma'am. Those who are standing in the lobby, we ask you if you would like to come in and stand over here. People that stand in the lobby, would you like to come in and stand over here so you don't have to stand in the doorway? And on the other side, we want you to feel welcome when you come to City Hall. We're excited that a lot of people come out now. We have seats here as well. We got, 2 or 3 seats in the front. If anybody wants to sit down. Everybody's fine? Great. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Here comes Christine Tillman, the citizen mayor again. I'm still at 22021 Down Avenue. Now listen, there are 12 months to a year. Why just Black History Month? What happened to white history? See, your proclamation destroys what you're proclaiming. You're proclaiming no demonstration, but you need to have a White History Month to do that. And don't make me have to go to federal court on it, because I just got my letter from the federal court giving me the go-ahead to do my own lawsuit and my own number. I cannot use DOJ number. He said, don't bring that one back. But he wants to hear all the constitutional violations of ranked choice. But I'm dealing with my city attorney, Bob Erie. He said, let's don't air our dirty laundry in federal court. So I'm going to let him do it. If he want to do it, he can take my brief and write my name out and send it his own self. I'm not going to do it, and there's a reason why. And also, I'm greatly concerned, about a lot of things that's going on. I heard the word violence. Where do you think it came from? The city of Eastpointe, I don't never remember them have no violence until the last few years when everybody started rushing in from Detroit. I go to court, don't be nobody in there, but 85% of them be young Black kids. That's all, so you better start in your own backyard before you start that kind of stuff. And because there was a lot of collaboration to get this country built. It was between the Black engineers and the white ones. Tom Edison, Graham Bell, Elijah McCoy, and what's his name? Granville T. Wood. If you don't want to acknowledge the other people, then you can't acknowledge the Black people. They ain't no better than nobody else. And on this MLK stuff, I heard what was said. I think MLK was a fraud. He did not teach the Black people how to be real. He taught them how to beg and say, y'all, I need y'all to give me something. That's why all the problems was. If he had told the people the truth about how America really got started with the Black engineers having the factories first and everything, I think he'd still be here. But when you start begging and carrying on, then people get mad. Oh yeah, we got to get them money just because they Black or whatever. And I don't blame them, I'd be mad too. And so also here, oh my God, you got to understand what's causing this violence. And I told y'all before, most of it comes from the welfare
30 seconds, ma'am.
Comes from the welfare moms who had kids to get a check, and you wonder why the kids bad. And so far as mayors go, we got Paletco and we got Solers. The FBI got them. Solers had $209,000 in his sock drawer. You know where he got it from? Housing reversion. He sold every one of them and tailored to one person. So we better be careful when we start this mess, because the FBI is not playing. I'll tell you the rest of it on the second one. But I have
Thank you, ma'am. Your time is up.
Go ahead and sue you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Susan Joss, and I've been living in Eastpointe for 54 years now. Love it, raised all my family here. And I didn't even really want to come and do this, but I have a contention with last Saturday's snowfall. I I don't know about some of the other residents, but the plowing was horrendous. My husband and I, we have our house is on a double lot, and when they did the plowing in front of our place Saturday night, the plows came down our street about, and I'm not exaggerating, about 30 miles an hour. And we only have a single driveway, and we had both of our vehicles off on our driveway, and they left what I would call a mini iceberg at the end of our driveway that, and I am not exaggerating, was approximately 3 feet high and across our driveway, that we could not, by any means, get our vehicles out of our driveway. It was, when we got up in the morning, it was horrendous. If it had not been for my wonderful neighbor, nice young neighbor that we have next door, I don't know how we would have been able to get out of our driveway, except if we had rammed one of our cars through it, which I don't know what that would have done to the car. And he managed to get enough space out where we could get the one car out. And even now, at the end of my drive, we have what I call a mini hill that is still 3 feet high and about 4 feet long. I mean, it was our street, and especially in front of our house and his house, is the worst that I have ever seen in all the years we've lived there. And I know that there's other people that had a lot of problems. If they had just left the street alone and gone down and maybe just salted, they would have been fine. And I know there's a lot of other people, and going to the drugstore and going down some of the
30
other
seconds,
streets,
ma'am.
they were awful. But I'm just telling you. And then you couldn't get a hold of anybody because it was the weekend. And thank God, all I can say is we had good neighbors.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Robin Newberry. I live on Cortland Court. I have the same issue, except my issue is with the snow plowing, they plowed half my driveway closed. I have to drive over the curb onto the grass. They didn't even do the rest of the street going down. I have a husband that's 71 years old with cardiac issues. I was a paramedic for 15 years, pulled calls out of Detroit. There is no way a fire truck or an ambulance could have got to my house to get my husband out if something happened this weekend. And like she said, there was no one there. I called the non-emergency number. I'm sure they thought I was just being petty a little bit at the end of the driveway. I have a picture of it if anybody wants to see it. It's unacceptable. You got a lot of senior people here, and if fire and EMS can't get in, it's not going to be a good thing. Not going to be a good thing at all. So I do have a picture if anybody wants to see it, and it's still sitting there. They told me they'd be out. Someone would be out to take care of it. It's still sitting there. So just wanted you to know.
Thank you, ma'am. If you want to leave that picture with Linda over here, Miss. Or you can email it to us, whatever you like.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Dorsha McGee. I'm representing Oakland County. That's where I reside. But however, if I wanted to relocate out of Oakland County, Macomb County and Eastpointe will be one of the cities that I will pick because I see a change in the diversity. And I just feel like we need to support our mayor and all of our city council members to keep the city moving forward. And no one should be downing anyone's race because we all have gone through issues that came a long way. So keep up the good work, you guys. God bless. Allah.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor and City Council, Ms. Gladney, Michael Avenue, have the same issue. The snow. I also have pictures, but here's my concern. When I did speak with the gentleman, I brought the issue to you all about paving out that street. where that barrel, orange and white barrel, still sits on my block. It's been there since September or October. Here we are, almost the end of January. But when I asked him could he move the snow and push it up, what they do, plow, he told me no at first. And truck, red truck, 763. So here's my issue. And I said to him, I said, what did you say? He said, well, if I do move it, what if my plow gets stuck where the barrel is? He said, matter of fact, don't move the barrel, leave the barrel there. I'm gonna go around it. He did a terrible job. So this makes me believe, is these are new contractors, or is it to the point where our city workers are so comfortable that whether they do their job or not, they still get a paycheck? That's my concern. So I have pictures, but feel free to come on Michael Avenue and see what it looks like if what the rain haven't melted away. And I just think it's unfair to us that you say no, and then when you do it grudgingly, as you really don't want to do it. So when people start doing their job, regardless of what it is, when they really don't want to do it because it's not in their heart to do it, they do it terrible. So please take that in consideration as we move forward with our taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gladney. Please, who's next?
Madam Mayor, Council, Harvey Creech, a resident of Eastpointe. As I say, Tony's here from the Recreation Department. Last week, I went down there and we now have a shuffleboard court inside. And it took long enough, but we have one. I'm hoping to get 2 to 3 or 4. I'm inviting, and this, as I said before too, I would have loved to invited the city itself out last year to play shuffleboard, but we had concerns, and we've got still a few concerns now. We'll see how it works, but I'm saying we have 6 courts over at Spindler. We have 2 courts right here at Kennedy, and I said the same thing about it. Let's get back. We have horseshoes. We have shuffleboard. We have a lot of things going in this city. I want to bring it back so everybody can enjoy it. As I say, hopefully somewhere along the line, this city will come together and we can get things done. I know right now we have a Parks Division who's working hard. And I'd like to thank Tony. I see, Tony is here on the other side. And I said I'd like to thank Joe because Joe is our director. But we have concerns, or let's put it this way, I have concerns in the middle, and I don't really know who to talk to. So as I said, I might have to totally address this to the city council itself and have mediators going in different directions, because now we have too many people involved in it in order to get things done. But things are getting done. But as I said, the worst part about it, I have a piece of paint here from one of our shuffleboards that was done just 4 months ago, and the piece is this big. It's already coming off of the board. It took me a year and a half, going on 2 years, just to get these boards painted. Now that I did get them painted, and the worst part about it, then they said we got to seal them. Well, by the time we got them sealed, you can literally pick this piece up, paint up, and see through it. All we did, excuse me for saying this, all we did again too is put perfume on a pig. It's the truth, people. Why do we have to do, it's just like how many times you have to wash your car before it gets clean? And I mean, how many times do we have to do something if we can't do it right the first? And they said, give us time.
30 seconds.
Thank you. Give us time. Well, if this is what time does, no wonder we have deep problems in this city and a lot of other people. But I do think we are going in the right direction. This is one thing I can say. It's just going to say, it keeps saying, well, it takes time. It takes time to do a lot of things, but I don't want to die in the purpose of the time it takes to get some of these things done. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. Hi.
My name's Antoinette DiGiuseppe. I live right here on Evergreen. I'm your neighbor.
Can you pull that down a little bit? You're so we can hear you loud and clear.
I'm your neighbor. I live in the very first house right here on Evergreen, and I want to complain about the snow too. By the time them drivers got done, I had a wall at the bottom of my driveway. had to be dug out. And even your own sidewalk on Evergreen is not shoveled. Nobody can even walk on City Hall's sidewalk because when they came down the street, all the snow went right on your sidewalk, and nobody has even bothered to shovel it. And even here in the plaza, I noticed that your snow is not even shoveled in the plaza. I was just thinking, had it been one of us, we probably would have got a ticket for it. And I mean, I like the guys, I'm glad they plow and salt, but like the other lady said, when they come down the street at 30 miles an hour, you got nothing but a mess going on. And it's just not fair. And you can even ask, isn't it you? That young man right there with the beard? Don't you park over there? Isn't that your black SUV? And you park there every day? Isn't that you?
I have a gray truck.
Oh, okay. There's a man who works in here somewhere, and he parks over there every day. So you can ask him that your own sidewalk ain't even shoveled. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
It's him.
Glad you like my beard, though. Thank you.
You have a twin. No, ma'am, your time is over with now. No, you didn't, but when we're saying you're done, you can come back later on, okay? I know you have a lot more to say.
Good evening. Mary Hall Rayford, Eastpointe resident. I have so much to say, I don't even know where to start, but I'm going to start with one primary premise, and that is everything that everyone on this council does is a reflection of who Eastpointe is. And I need to remind you that we don't need negativity looking at all of us because that is not who we are. We are also not Detroit. I moved out of Detroit, and I don't want to get back into Detroit. So right now, every resident in this city that wants to have some input into your proclamations, resolutions, whatever you define them as, you need to get in touch with some of the residents and find out what they want and not just do what you want to do. That is not your role. You're supposed to be representing the residents, and I'd like to see that done. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wasn't sure if I still got 3 minutes since I had part of the presentation, but I neglected to thank the new city manager and her right-hand person, Linda. I mentioned to the city manager what we were looking to do with the proclamation, and she said, I'll just give it to Linda and she'll get the job done. So I wanted to thank both of these ladies. I think it was Wednesday of last week when I addressed that with them, and felt it was important to get on this agenda, not knowing that there was another proclamation, but I was very impressed with what was done, and I look forward to working with the city council and with Harvey. When the guy from the museum talked about the guy being 200-some years old or 2,000, I thought he was talking about you. So, but anyway, looking forward to working with you and incorporating Code 22 into the 22nd annual cruise. And look at this crowd. I mean, this is impressive. I've gone to other city council meetings, and there might be 3 or 4 people, and I was known to drive 3 hours to speak 3 minutes because my freedom of speech is that important to me. And so I want to thank you all for coming out and maybe not letting your voices be heard, but showing up in numbers and supporting the city and hopefully supporting the city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Everyone. I'm a resident of Eastpointe. My name is Janie, and I'm calling about the snow removal. It's quite a few seniors on my block, and I actually called DPW today, and the lady said somebody will be out before the end of the day today because we can't even put out our garbage cans. They salted one end of the street, but not the other end. They plowed half of my street. We couldn't even get out our driveway. My husband's 70 years old, and he has cardiac problems. He couldn't go out there and do it. So I was out there trying to do it. Then I call, and they promised to send somebody out to push the snow today and put some salt out there. Nobody's still there. The piles are all still there. That's a school bus route also. That corner, Tuscany and Veronica, is a school bus route. Come on now, they got to do better than this. I understand they were closed yesterday. They probably got a lot of complaints today. But I didn't see no trucks in the neighborhood trying to fix anything. None whatsoever. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Shelley Crook. I'm a 30-year resident, and I just came up here today to see how all this is done. I haven't been up here in like 25 years. Didn't need to. But I did walk, and I just want to voice my opinion about that. Your sidewalks aren't plowed at all. So honestly, if any of our residents got tickets for plowing, they should not be paid because you did not plow your sidewalks. So, 2, religion does not belong in this building or anywhere with government. So, and I know there's lawyers here, so something needs to be said that is also against the law. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak at this time while hearing of the public is open? Yes, ma'am.
Harvey, if I'm gonna, you gotta.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Eastpointe City Council and Honorable Mayor Monique. Greetings to the council and to the mayor. I just read about the container houses today, so I don't know a lot about it. And so I just jotted down a lot of questions, whatever came to my mind. So this may not make sense, but these are just things that I thought about. So I'm just going to read through them real quick. Okay. What would be the main purpose of this? How would this bring more value to the city of Eastpointe? Or rather, why do you think this would be a good idea for Eastpointe? Would we then have landowners wanting to create trailer parks all throughout the city? Would this allow the homeowners with large lots to be able to put a trailer in their backyard for their adult children or family members to live in? Are there any other counties that have done this, and how is it working out for them? Will they be built to own or to rent or both? Will this turn into the Eastpointe City projects? Could they go in one place instead of spreading them throughout the city? And that's it. Those are just some of the things I thought about when I heard about container housing. I know that everyone needs affordable housing, and there are people with low incomes, and I do want to support our veterans, but I just want to know more about what it is before I say yay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Anybody else who like to speak at this time? Anybody else like to speak? Okay, the first hearing of the public is closed. You have an opportunity at the end, close to the end of the meeting. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes.
Madam Mayor? Oh. Go ahead. All right, Madam Mayor, I'll motion to approve the regular meeting minutes in November 11th, 2019.
Support.
Moved and supported. Please call the roll.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Councilperson Curley?
Yes.
Councilperson Baker?
Yes.
Mayor Owens?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, is it possible we just take all the rest
At one
within
time?
motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, then I would move the approval of the minutes of the organizational meeting of November 11th, the regular meeting of November 19th, the special meeting of December 13th, and the regular meeting of January 7th.
Except, well, I was going to abstain from the last one because I wasn't here, but
Okay.
how about all but the last one,
All
unless
but
someone
A
else was
through-
missing?
A through D.
By the way,
Oh, B through D. Thank you.
folks, we failed to say at the beginning that it's good to have you back.
Thanks.
And we know that you're feeling better, and that's great. And despite what that lady said, God bless you. And
Thanks, Councilman Curley.
So we got a motion and support for the approval of the minutes for B through D.
I'll support that. I don't know if I did.
We got a motion and support for items B through D. Please call the roll, sir.
Councilperson Curley,
yes.
Councilperson Lucido,
Yes.
Mayor Owens,
Yes.
Councilperson Baker,
Yes.
Councilperson DeMonico.
Yes.
Now the approval.
Madam Mayor, I motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of January 7th, 2020.
Support.
Motion and supported. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Lucido,
Yes.
Councilperson Baker,
Yes.
Councilperson DeMonico,
Abstain?
Councilperson Curley,
Yes.
Mayor Owens.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the scheduled hearings for the public hearing on the Recreational Authority of Roseville and Eastpointe Recreation Master Plan. You guys can please stand at the podium, and please let us know your names.
Excuse me. Good evening. My name is Chris Nordstrom. I'm with Carlisle Wortman out of Ann Arbor.
Can you talk a little bit louder?
Sorry. Chris Nordstrom out of Carlisle Wortman in Ann Arbor. We are the consultants that help develop the joint recreation plan for Eastpointe in Roseville and the Recreational Authority. I've got Mr. Lipinski here from the Recreation Authority and Mr. Sasek from Eastpointe. I wanted to briefly talk about what the recreation plan was completed for, what we found in the city of Eastpointe, and then open it up for comments from these gentlemen and from the public. Tonight's public hearing is the first of 3 hearings that we are having. There will be another hearing with the Recreational Authority tomorrow night at the Rec Center, and then next Tuesday there will be the final public hearing in the city of Roseville. The reason for doing these plans is really twofold. First off, it's a way to provide guidance for parks and recreation development, both programming and physical amenities within the city over the next 5 years. But beyond that, it is something that is required by the DNR, and it makes you eligible for funding through their grant programs. They have 3 main grants: the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund, the Recreation Passport, and the Land and Water Conservation Fund. Once this plan is adopted, you would then be eligible to apply for grants in those 3 programs, which could be used for developing your parks. What we found in this recreation planning process, which started back in May, is that the community is really interested in maintaining the existing parks and maintaining programming. Over 98% of the Eastpointe residents indicated that they thought maintenance of parks was important or very important, and 93% felt the same way about maintaining the existing programs. There wasn't a lot of interest in, as much interest in trail development or developing new parks. It is just more focusing on what you have. One of the big issues that did come up throughout the process was that a lot of people were bemoaning the loss of the pool. As we've gone through this and had a number of meetings and taken input in from the community, one of the ideas that came up was the idea of implementing a splash pad. The problem with going with a pool is that you have to have lifeguards on staff. It's extremely expensive to develop, and the thought was that a splash pad might be something that would be kind of bridge the gap and give people a way to cool down on those hot summer months at a little bit lower cost with less ongoing staffing requirements. You want to speak to? I can just add to that. Sure.
Tony Lipinski with the Recreation Authority of Roseville and Eastpointe. Just to add on to Mr. Nordstrom's comments. Well, one, regarding the pool, we do have a plan in place working with Eastpointe Community Schools to utilize the pool at Eastpointe High School, as well as the pool at Roseville High School with the Roseville Community Schools. That is in the works and down the road. Again, we need lifeguards though. So if anybody's a certified lifeguard out there, please apply. Anyways, I digress. The purpose of this hearing, though, is we would like to get public comments, what you'd like to see at the Recreation Authority, more importantly, within the City of Eastpointe parks. What kind of park improvements, anything to maintain, as Mr. Nordstrom would say. But this is, your time to put in that plan what you would like to see, so those can get worked on over the next 5 years or sooner, possibly later. But it's up to you to let us know what you would like. We have ideas, but if there's something that you can think of that we're not aware of, this is the time to tell us. And then Mr. Gary Sasek is the chairman of the Eastpointe Parks and Recreation Commission.
Good evening, Mayor Owens, council members, and audience. On January 15th, the Eastpointe Parks Commission had a special meeting, and what we did was we focused our attention that night specifically on the 8 parks within Eastpointe. And we looked at the recommendations that were already in the draft of the 5-year master plan. And what we have done is tweaked that by deleting some things that we felt weren't necessary, but also adding additional items. And those items will be presented so that they can be added to the master plan, specifically for the reason mentioned earlier, that we then can look for grants. And again, as a result of the survey that was taken, we are exploring the possibility of possibly putting in a splash pad at Kennedy Park because we deem that would be the most logical place. We know that there's water access already. It has adequate parking, and we have been exploring the cost of splash pads, and over time, we're hoping to bring something to the community that would make it a lot more fun for the kids and some of the adults, because I've seen adults using the splash pads too. So I just wanted to update you as to what we came up with last week also. And we will be attending the meeting tomorrow night. Thank you.
Now, to the audience, when you ask them about their feedback, it's seeing programs in the park and things like that, correct? 'Cause I know last year I provided someone that did yoga in the park. So if you want to see yoga in the park or different activities, you have to let us know what you want in your city. We don't know what you want. We don't know what you want and how to, receive things that you want if you don't let the people that work for you know. So if you want to see yoga in the park, if you want to see certain things, let us know, take the survey, talk to these people, and let us know what you want. So you can have a better community. You have to show up, and you have to let us know what's going on and how you feel. Because we don't know how you feel if you don't tell us, and what you want if you don't let us know. So these are the people that let us know, let them know, and so we can have a better community. So if you have any questions for them, you have cards or anything that.
Yeah, so at this point, we would like to have the public come up and speak. It should be noted that the minutes of tonight's public hearing will be in the recreation plan. So there will be an official record showing whatever comments come in.
Okay.
And this plan is a living document. It is something that can be amended over the next 5 years if needed. But the fact that Mr. Lipinski is here right now really indicates just how important this is to the Recreational Authority and how much they value your input. So I certainly hope that anybody that's here that would like to speak will step up tonight.
Yes. So while they're creating the plan and finishing it, your additional ideas will be placed in those for consideration as well. Well, perceive no questions. You go to the podium. Yes, please. Please state your name and your residency, sir.
Good evening. My name is John Braddock, and I'm an Eastpointe resident and proud business owner. Y'all want to do some splashing, you can come over there on Spiller after it rains, and we got a nice little lake that comes up over there. So just to remind you, if you might want to take something and deal with when I try to go walk around, if it rains quite a bit. Oh, I guess my neighbor nodding their head. So and for a little of that, we got a nice little hall up there, but the public relations or the outreach might not be so good, because I don't never know what's going on up there. I might would you know, go up there and play some cards or something if, you know, there was a card day or something up there, some beer wins or something. So it would be good to have some activity, you know, going on at the parks that we might be engaged in. If you get with me, I'll tell you what I like, you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Oh, good evening, everyone, Madam Mayor, City Council. So with the Recreation Park, I have
What's
a
your name,
question.
ma'am?
Juanita, I'm sorry.
Are you an East Point resident here?
East Point resident for 17 years. I'm sorry. So now my question is, for the parks, what would be if there was a possibility with this water pad or whatnot, what would be the operating hours and who would be charged for the water that's running? Would we be charged for that? Who would pay for that?
That's something we determine. Most likely to be a nominal fee to operator maintain, but, you know, the residents, we can't speak to that right now. That's all speculation right now.
But it's a possibility that the residents would end up, well, homeowners would end up paying their water bill.
We're just here to take what people would like to see in the park.
Oh, okay.
What I can't address that to it.
I don't want to talk, I don't,
No, but seriously, with the splash pads, one of the key elements is having a really good recirculation system. So the water usage isn't as much as you would think it is because it's being recycled, purified as it goes. And I was told by 2 different communities, when you're looking into these, do not cut costs in the recirculation system because that is really what helps keep it economical and feasible for the communities.
so that didn't answer my question. Yeah.
There's gonna be a charge for water, but it's not gonna be an excessive charge. And many communities have a residency and non-residency for the use of the park.
At the end.
My name is Patricia Brewer, and I'm an Eastpointe resident. I wanted to ask, does that include jazz in the park or art fairs in the park? As a suggestion.
Did you guys get her question?
They're taking the notes.
They're just taking notes, okay.
Go ahead, Chris.
So, again, what we're doing tonight, I'm taking these notes down. So yes, to answer your question, programs like that would be something that we would note. Is taking notes about too. And it would be, you know, certainly be encouraged. And again, this is in the minutes, so it's going to be something that's going to be in the plan verbatim. So yes, any program ideas you have, please let us know. And again, if you don't feel comfortable tonight, you think about it, and you want to come back tomorrow night, please do. We'd welcome you at the Recreation Center to answer any questions.
That's Mr. Creech.
Thank you, Harvey Creech. There's actually so many questions asked for the Parks Division. I've been asking them for a year and a half. There's so much that we've lost in the last 10 years. Our parks have went just about to the bottom of the hill. Now we're starting to bring them back up. So as I said, I discussed this matter with Tony. I've discussed this matter with the Parks Commission. I've discussed so many matters. What we need to do now, as far as getting new, we need to bring the old back to standard. If you look at our walk path right now, and Sarah typically said this, we've got a walk path that's less than 5 years old that's literally blowing apart. If we don't fix it now, we won't have to worry about it here pretty quick. We've got a parking lot right now that's literally blowing apart. It wasn't done right the first time. I know Joe was supposed to be done last year. It didn't get done. We've got other parking lots right now that need to be repaired that aren't getting done. There's so much that's not getting done. It's not that we need new. We have to fix the old before we can get to the new. I appreciate what the Parks is doing right now. I think they're doing a great job. They're fighting for, as I said before, too. I go to just about every one of their meetings, and they're fighting hard.
Mr. Creech, do you have any questions for them? Because it sounds like another hearing of the public.
Well, not really questions. It's just as I said before, too. What's it going to take to put the old parks back together before we start on the new parks. As I said,
Yes,
that
that is one of, this goes back
as I said, the master plan, I was there, and I discussed it too. And please, as I say, especially coming out of Tony, and as I say, and everybody, as I said, you can go to the meetings, but when we have to go to the meeting, they have to come back and talk to the council. The council has to come back. There's more red tape and more. It takes too long to get something too simple done. The same, in a year and a half, just to get shuffleboard and horseshoes back in our parks, this is too long. I mean, please, as I said, when we see something, if we attack it, even let's say a master plan, a 5-year master plan to get some of this stuff done, I understand money's to a certain point too. But then again, too, as I said, I don't think some of the people actually understand. I want to bring everybody from this city back into our parks so we can enjoy them.
Thank you. Yes, please step up to the podium, please. We're talking about the parks right now, ma'am. We're just addressing that. The hearing of the public is over. If it's not about the public hearing on the rec authority, then yes, sir.
Madam Mayor, City Council, name's Larry Edwards, Eastpointe residents. I just want to kind of piggyback on the young lady that made mention in regard to the water costs, because there's not enough transparency and not enough clarity. I know it's still a working process, but I think that the public ought to be well informed, and transparency ought to be well given in regard to this situation. I just paid a water bill $240. I don't want a 5 cents increase and what have you, if that's going to be the case.
Mr. Excuse me, this is just concerning recreation. Now, you want to come back at the end and do your 3 minutes at the hearing of the public?
This was the water and splash at the park.
He's talking about the splash pad, though.
Yeah, then you brought up his own personal bill. So,
Okay, in regard to why I don't want it and what have you, so that's my concern.
anybody else want to talk about only the recreation, towards the recreation? You'll have 3 minutes at the end to address other issues. And if you have information for them as well, if they want to contact you all. And I know you have a Parks Commission meeting tomorrow as well.
Yeah, like I said, this was just to take public comments on what the residents would like to see in the parks for park improvements.
Okay.
Mr. Creech, we are working on improving the parks. I know you know what we've been doing as far as, the scoreboard, the football field. I mean, Mr. Marucci's added a lot to the park maintenance budget and some plans in place for that. The disc golf course being installed, improving the varsity ball field. We've done quite a few things, and just getting these things in place is just a matter of, unfortunately, it does take time. But if somebody was unable to, come here tonight to speak, we do have another public hearing at the Recreation Authority Roseville and Eastpointe Center, which is at 18185 Sycamore in Roseville. The meeting is 7 o'clock tomorrow evening at the Rec Center, specifically for a public hearing regarding the Recreation Master Plan. And then there's a third public hearing at the City of Roseville Council meeting on the 28th, which is 6:30 p.m. at Roseville City Hall. And I'm sure Eastpointe residents could still speak to that, although that's mainly for Roseville Parks. Outside of that, anybody's welcome to call or email the Recreation Center. Our website is rare-mi.org, and it'll come up. You can Google it. There is a copy of the Recreation Master Plan, the draft, on our website. I believe there's a copy here at City Hall. We have a copy at our rec center if you wanted to come by and take a look at it and just thumb through it and just make any comments regarding that. But this public hearing is mainly just to take comments for that moving forward.
I won't say that.
So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lipinski.
And can you have him repeat that email address one more time, please?
Yes, and it's also on the website too.
Yeah, the website is RARE, which is our acronym for Recreation Authority Roseville and Eastpointe, rare-mi.org. And that's a dash or hyphen, not an underscore. Okay, thank you.
And if you all forget that, you can also go on RARE's website and Eastpointe website as well to get more information about that. And there are links. Thank you so much for coming. I think that's all the questions we have. We're going to go to the next item on the agenda, unfinished business. The letter from AEW with alternative recommendation for city streets. Is AEW here? I know you want to see more information on this, Councilwoman Lucido, correct?
Yes, I did request more information, and I'm happy that we were able to get the information, the opinion of AEW. I'm happy that Mr. Pangori took the time to write us all a letter, so we had that information. So I would be willing to to vote on this tonight, because I think I have enough information now to make a vote.
Because now Mr. Pangori is talking about resurfacing as well, correct? But this is about resurfacing those same streets as well, but with more money.
I believe that Mr. Pangori's recommendation is not to resurface them, because he believes that the underlane underneath is going to be not in good enough shape to hold the resurfacing for it to last, to be to the best financial benefit of the city. I think he's recommending that we actually replace the whole streets.
You're talking about for the $2.5 million?
Yes.
Mr. DeMonico.
Sure, I just want to jump. I think the main thing, so I really appreciate Mr. Abraham and AEW coming up with all this information. So far, of course, we have additional questions, but to me, I think it's essentially a policy decision that we need to agree to. Either we do more follow the resurfacing method of Mr. Abraham or the reconstruction of AEW. And to me, I guess just in general, to try and sum it up as briefly as possible, I'd just rather go the route of reconstruction, so that, because resurfacing, well, for everyone out in the audience, resurfacing is you take the top layer off of a side street and fix just the top layer. Reconstruction is removing the whole street, essentially doing everything. Resurfacing will be, let's see, what were the amount of years? I think 10, 15 years would last, and it'd maybe be 25 for reconstruction. So for me, I'm just, as a policy standpoint, I know it'll take longer and it'll cost more money to do all the streets, but I'd just rather see us do it right now, and then 25 years down the road, we're looking at the streets again, as opposed to resurfacing now, and then the council 10 to 15 years from now is going to have to revisit those streets again. Just as a policy. The amount of money we'd have to see when we go out to bid. We'd know the exact amounts. We have estimates, of course, but just that's essentially how I feel about it, I guess.
And I do believe right now, what we have done in the past is reconstruction of streets. And I think we allocated $700,000 a year towards reconstruction, Mr. Blum?
We have $700,000 for local street projects of whatever type we decide. We did have an extra $700,000, which is where Mr. Abraham was talking about using that for resurfacing. So we basically had $1.4 million that we could utilize. Most of our street reconstructions have either been with CDBG money or tied in with a water project where water sewer was paying part of the road. The miscellaneous street repairs that we had set up of the $700,000 a year, doing it in sections of the city, that was basically, we looked at the $700,000 available each year and said, you're not going to reconstruct much of anything for $700,000. We will positively benefit more miles in the city by doing the miscellaneous street repair than trying to save up money over a couple of years and doing a half mile or a quarter mile or whatever it turns out to be of reconstruction. That plan was put into place about 2 years ago. and we did our first round, and we actually, with pricing, were able to do 3 sections of the city for what we had allocated for just 2. So we had a positive impact with the miscellaneous street repairs. So, I mean, it's just it is a policy decision of how council wants to proceed. It was acknowledged that the 2s and the 3s, they were in terrible shape, and they were going to continue to be in terrible shape because we did not have the money for reconstruction at that time. So until we find an alternative funding source, we're kind of stuck with that $700,000 a year for projects.
I guess that was where I was going, the alternative funding sources. My suggestion today was going to be that we motion to ask Mr. Blum and city administration to come up with, well, I'd suggest we follow the reconstruction and then ask Mr. Blum to come up with some sort of ideas on a bond or, St. Clair Shores did a millage for roads, just the different options we have regarding the 2s and 3s, and maybe add 4s as an optional, or, we come up with some sort of rough plan and see what the numbers would look like, because if it does take way too long to do all the reconstruction, maybe we do want to revisit resurfacing at some point. But I think at this point, we can't do it just with the money we have. Like you said, it'll take a couple years to have enough funding to do like one of the roads, and we would never catch up. But that was kind of where I was thinking of going.
Just to read one sentence that we got from AEW, it said that we would not recommend the resurfacing of street sections with a PACER rating of 3 or less. So I think reconstruction is our way to go. Bottom line, there's too darn many streets that are pretty bad, and we've got to finally say we're going to get it fixed if we have to go to a bonding or whatever. But I think our citizens are tired of their street being 67th on the list, and what we've got to sit down and say, we're going to fix all the damn streets in Eastpointe, and if we have to go for a bond, let's go for a bond, and let's get them all done in the next 2 or 3 years, and that's it. But reconstruction, I think, is the only way to go. And I like your idea, make a motion to have our finance director look for alternative funding, and then we'll go from there.
Councilman Baker, you have anything you want to say on this?
Really, I have nothing else to add. I mean, I definitely understand the reconstruction over just the resurfacing, and it seems like the reconstruction is the better guarantee. So it seems that's the way to go, but I do believe, just listening to Mr. Blum, we got to find out how we can pay for the project to be done right and in the fastest amount of time. So I'm in agreement of that.
Sorry. Mr. Blum, looking at all this information from Director Abraham and AEW, the way that Mr. Abraham has it is we can afford to get these streets fixed and not have these residents wait years from now to get them fixed, and that's affordable. Instead of us reconstructing, they're waiting to get their street fixed, and we're borrowing more money.
That assumes that the bids come in at that magic $700,000 number. He had estimated $800,000 to $900,000. AEW estimated $2.3 million. Mm-hmm. So there's a wide range on estimates of where this project, if we bid this out, we may still not be resurfacing because we can't afford $2.3 million. So, that's still an option to go forward with bid specs, put them out, see where the bids come in. It's just that the resurfacing is not going to last that long, and 10, 15 years down the road, you'll be lucky to get 15. 10 years down the road, you're going to be looking at reconstruction anyways.
Madam Mayor, if you don't mind. My biggest concern, I would love to get as many roads as we can get completed as fast as we can. The idea sounds great, but I have to ultimately look into the future too, because 5, 7, 10 years from now, I don't want to be back in this exact same situation. So that's why I would rather come up with some sort of plan moving forward to have this be more of a long-term thing, get the roads done. A lot of them have been neglected for a very long time. Like Mr. Blum had said, right now, we're only doing one road a year, which isn't enough. We really do need to step it up and find funding to move forward to try to get more done.
With the $2.3 million, is that covering as much as Mr. Abraham is saying for $800,000?
Correct, right. And the.
That's for reconstruction compared
No,
to
that was AEW's estimate for paving.
Oh, that's not the reconstruction
That
price?
is not reconstruction.
What's the reconstruction price?
I think it was just 2.5, 2.6 for reconstruction.
2.6 million to fix these streets? That's on here?
Right.
Compared to, that's reconstruction.
Reconstruction was 2.5, 2.6, somewhere in there, and the resurfacing was going to be 2.3.
Yeah, here's the sentence from we had AEW's said we have estimated the resurfacing of these 9 streets at $2.4 million, assuming 30% concrete base repair, which they also mentioned in other streets they've done, how much base repair they had to do. And then for comparison, the estimate to reconstruct these 9 streets with concrete would be $2.55 million, and that's bottom of the first page of there.
How long would it take for us to get this money and get these fixed, and how many years? Compared to what he's saying, if we resurface, we pay $800,000, and they get fixed in, what, all next year, or?
Well, the idea would be we'd put them out for bid and they do it over the summer. But again, that assumes that your bid comes back at $800,000.
So all those 9 streets,
AEW doesn't agree with that $800,000 estimate.
and Mr. Abraham doesn't either, that's the thing we're getting at. So those 9 streets can get fixed next year if we go with Mr. Abraham. If we go with the AEW to reconstruct these 9 streets, how long will it take to get these streets fixed, and how many years?
If we don't do any projects for 3 years, we could afford to do the reconstruction.
What I asked you was, if we go with AEW's plan
Right.
to get $2.6 million, how long would that take to reconstruct those 9 streets?
Well, it takes you 3 years to save the money to even start the project,
So the residents would have to wait 3 years
to do
to get
reconstruction.
those streets done.
If we don't have an alternate funding source,
Okay,
which
One street.
that's for one street though,
I thought that was for the whole thing.
That'd be for all.
for a mile.
That'd be for all the 2s and 3s.
That was the way I read it, was all the
Oh,
2s
for
and
1 mile,
3s.
right?
That's what you told me.
That's what he said, 1 mile is 2 point.
Right, and I think the total of these 9 streets that were there,
That's the
but
one.
again, that's only nine of the 2s and 3s. You have more than 9 streets out there. That was the 9 that Director Abraham was looking at doing this summer. There are significantly more streets than just those 9. So you will not come anywhere near to completing all your 2s and 3s with even 2.6 million.
So, Madam Mayor, yeah, my suggestion was then that we ask Mr., because I don't think we'd be able to come with a specific answer to, or well, wouldn't have a good answer to your question without Mr. Blum giving us an idea of if we could borrow money or do a millage to do the reconstruction, or if the bids come high, like AEW is guessing, we would also need alternative funding, or else it would take too long to do resurfacing.
I would hate to come with a millage and asking for, take another bond out. That's the last thing I want to ask the residents to do when we have another source to get them fixed in next year with the funds that we already have.
Now, one thing we will be looking at is in February sometime is having a capital meeting with council where we would have AEW in here along with Director Abrahams. And at that point, we would have a better idea of funding levels. I would have time to come up with some alternative funding sources. So it's not that we need to do anything tonight.
Great.
And we can hold off until that February capital meeting that we haven't scheduled yet, but we need to have.
Okay. Yeah, let's table this till we have further information before we spend almost $3 million.
Can we make a motion to ask
yeah, 'cause I think he was saying-
formally for certain information?
Yes, sir, please.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. Then, yeah, I'll motion that we ask city administration to come up with alternative funding sources for reconstructing the 2s and 3s in the report in here, and maybe an option, I'd say also, just if we could do one set of numbers for the 2s and 3s and then add the 4s in that are in this report as like a separate item, you know, bonds or millage, just all the different options that you can think of, Mr. Blum, for that. I think that covers everything.
I'll support that.
Motion is supported. Call the roll.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Councilperson Curley?
Yes.
Mayor Owens?
Yes.
Councilperson Baker?
Yes.
Next item is reports from administration, starting with the city manager. Ms. Doom.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
As Mr. Blum stated, we are beginning our discussions on capital planning projects, and we will be presenting them to council as we move forward on our 2021 budget. And we've had discussions already about a number of things, and from lawn maintenance to park maintenance, and also road maintenance. We're going to continue. I'll be meeting with the union shortly. As you know, all of our contracts expire in June. So we're fast-tracking that now to sit down and have our conversations. We will also be asking council for an executive session to discuss, you know, labor contracts, and we anticipate putting that on our next agenda. I also had an opportunity to attend the Chamber Coffee Hour. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome.
Who recommended I meet as many people as I can, which is one of my goals. Being fairly new to Macomb County, but not new to the Detroit area. So I met with Tony Lipinski and Sarah Frederick from RARE. We also discussed upcoming programs and events. So prior to them, you know, Mr. Lipinski being here and talking about getting input for our recreation department, they were very kind and spending quite a bit of time sharing what we have already, what is very favorable, popular, what people would like to see going forward. And we are soon going to be bringing council a number of options for the tax reverted properties. Kim Homan, our economic development director, is looking at all of these properties, and we'll have some definitely ideas, potential incentives, how we're going to rehab these homes, how we'll sell them, who will use them, you know, who will benefit the most from them. The underlying important part we need to remember is we want these homes to be beautiful. We want them to be attractive in all of your neighborhoods, and we want people who want to be a part of the community to come live in these homes. Now, just as a reminder, on February 4th, we are going to have a goal-setting meeting. Every year, council and the city manager sets goals. So first, we review our goals from last year. What have we accomplished? Are they still important? Do we need to set new goals and new focus for the new year? And that's a very interesting session. We welcome everyone to come. It'll start at 5:30 on February the 4th. And we'd like your input also, because the goal sessions that we set are for the good of the community. So the council works for you. I work for all of you also. We'd like to know what our goals should be for the next year, what our priorities are. And next week, I'll be attending the Michigan Municipal Executives Conference in Gaylord, and I look forward to learning about the newest laws that are upcoming in Michigan, also looking for opportunities by networking and working with other people throughout the county and the state, and we're always looking for grant funding. That's a number one priority of many times going to these events, is that we're looking for opportunities to enhance our community without any additional cost to us. So we're always looking for every financial opportunity we can find, and we'll keep working on that. Mr. Blum will, Mr. Abraham will, we all will, because there's money out there. It's getting a little harder to find than it used to be in the past, but we'll be looking for every opportunity to bring the best that we can to the city at the very best cost we can, at the least cost to you. And that's all I have for tonight.
Any questions for the city manager, anyone? I had one question. What about hiring a grant writer? Those people who are, that's all they do is know how to find money.
That is always a possibility. In my experience with grant writing, they're usually one of two formats. Cities will hire a grant writer and have them on the payroll, and then they will search for the grants while they're our employee. There's another opportunity where grant writers will search for grants, write them, and then a percentage of the award will be their payment. And often they have the ability, they really look hard when a percentage goes back to them. So they tend to look a little harder and work a little harder because that's the only way they're paid. But it's also good to have, an in-house grant writer whose focus is looking for grants. Equally, important for all of us. So it is definitely a possibility that I think we should talk about with council as we go forward with our new budget for next year, as well as looking at a person, and I'd like to share this now with some of you. We have in the past had a communications person who kind of one spot where we funnel our information, it goes out to the public, very much like the young lady shared earlier, the ability not only to market the community, but to give information very quickly. This snowstorm really reflects how quickly we needed information sent out. And yet I myself had no access, neither did our assistant city manager. We had no ability to go on our own website and put that information on as additional information for you. So we recognize that we really have some changes that we have to make. And it starts with communication, whether it's in-house, whether it's a part-time person, what we're going to do, but we do need to do something because we've heard from you. And our communication was not as good as it should have been. So we need to improve, and we will.
Absolutely. So maybe in the upcoming budget, you can put some numbers together for a grant writer to find us some free money. And
We will.
also a PR person, maybe part-time, just to see how it works, update our website. So the residents can look on the website and find out what's going on and don't have to go through hearsay and get it exactly from the elected officials and the directors.
Absolutely. One of the most important facets of a community is to have a website that you can turn to immediately. If you need to know anything about events coming up, any emergencies, anything, you should be able to turn to your website and have up-to-date information. And many communities don't, and that's going to be our goal that we'd like to focus on for the new year, so that you can always go to the city website. We know right now it's outdated. It's not being updated on a regular basis the way it was set up. It goes through our IT person who goes home at 4:30. Well, when we have an event, we need to reach out to you on the weekend or after hours. We aren't getting the information out. So we recognize our shortfalls, and we're certainly looking for solutions.
Sounds good. If we have any grant writers, and we found a PR person, so it's nothing etched in stone, but we always try to hire locally in the community. Next item is the finance director. Report from you, please.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. There's enough financial items on the agenda tonight. I don't need to add anything into it. If there are any questions, though, feel free. I would like to take a 10-second pause and have the screen retracted because it's getting close to timing out. If somebody wants to push that button. We don't. There we go.
Thank you.
So.
Any questions for the finance director?
Not yet.
Okay, not yet.
Okay.
All right, going to the city attorney.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. On behalf of the city attorney's office, welcome back, Cardi.
Thank you.
At the last meeting, the city council scheduled approximately 14 properties for show cause hearings. Since that time, our office has ordered updated title work, so we now know the identities of the current owners and anybody that has any current interest. Those parties will be notified with letters from the city attorney's office in advance of the respective show cause hearings. For members of the audience, the city handles blight cases several different ways. The first is actual criminal matters, and those are prosecuted over in the 38th District Court. So if a property owner is maintaining their property in violation of a criminal section of the Code of Ordinances, those matters are then prosecuted on Wednesday afternoons, again over at the 38th District Court. Another way that the city handles blight cases is by filing a nuisance abatement action in the Macomb County Circuit Court in order to obtain injunctive relief from one of the judges in the Circuit Court. And the third way that the city handles blight and code issues is through what's referred to as the dangerous building hearing process. In our office, the city attorney's office works in conjunction with city administration, specifically the building department, and a particular property is identified either by one of the city's inspectors or oftentimes by neighbors on the street who see code violations, the property's not being maintained, and they then file a complaint with the city building department. The building department sends an inspector out, and if those code violations are verified, a warning letter is sent to the property owner. If the warning is ignored, then our office becomes involved, and we then send a letter to the property owner indicating that their property has now been scheduled for a dangerous building hearing. Those hearings are conducted, city administration tries to do it anywhere from 3 to 4 times a year. Those hearings, though, are conducted here at City Hall during the work week in one of the side conference rooms. The people that are involved in that process are members of the building department, someone from the city attorney's office, and also a hearing officer who is an attorney who is employed by the city on a contractual basis to oversee those meetings. The hearings are handled essentially as a mini trial. The city attorney's office puts on evidence, asks or schedules witnesses and asks questions of the witnesses, and also introduces a written documentation. And then the property owner or their legal representative is able to cross-examine any witnesses that the city attorney's office has called, and they're also able to provide their own witnesses and also testify on their own behalf. At the close of that mini hearing, the hearing officer then issues a written opinion and order in approximately 30 days, setting forth if in fact code violations have been established, giving that property owner an opportunity to correct those code violations within a certain period of time. With the extreme examples, sometimes the hearing officer will order that the structure or structures on that particular property be demolished. If the property owner does not comply with the order of the hearing officer, be it demolition or to make repairs or correct the violations, the matter is then brought before the city council, and the city council schedules the property for what's referred to as a show cause hearing. And at the show cause hearing, the property owner is given notice of that hearing in advance, and they are able to appear and stand at the podium either by themselves or with legal representation, and essentially show cause or otherwise give a reason why they have not complied with the hearing officer's written opinion order, which was typically issued many months previously. The members of the city council then are able to ask questions of that property owner, and ultimately the city council then will make a decision. They will either affirm the hearing officer's decision, which could include, in the most extreme examples, demolition, or the city council has the ability to grant an extension to that property owner if there are circumstances that warrant that. So that's what basically a really quick overview of that process is. Those hearings, those show cause hearings, are conducted here in the city council chambers. Again, the dates for those will be February 18th and March 3rd, and those begin at 6 o'clock. Those are open to the public, and so if there are members in the audience that want to witness or observe how those are conducted, you're certainly welcome to show up on either February 18th or March 3rd and watch the proceedings. And Madam Mayor, I do not have anything further. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you for explaining that to the audience, for those that did not know. Any questions for the city attorney, anyone?
I do not have any questions, but I was going to ask if we could take a 5-minute recess before we go into new business.
Absolutely. We're going to take a 5-minute recess, everyone, and come right back. Thank you.
You know I was going to suggest that.
About 9:10. About 9:10.
You know, a 5-minute never lasts 5
I know.
minutes. You know that.
And I think we were gonna.
Yeah, I'll get up in a second.
Oh, it is.
Reach out more, and it's on Facebook. That's why Facebook websites are important, and also the media. grant writer, PR. That's gonna be awesome. Hi, how are you? Have their seats.
No, it's like, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Please
I
don't
know,
take
it's-
longer than 10 minutes.
I know.
All
Please,
right.
everybody be seated. The council meeting is back. Okay. Everybody here? Good.
Yeah, I feel lighter.
Please, everybody be seated. If you want to continue your conversation, please step out the chambers. We're back at new business. The next item on the agenda is to receive and file the 2019 through 2020 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report.
Madam Mayor, I'll motion that we receive and file the City of Eastpointe Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for year ending June 30, 2020.
Support.
Moved and supported. Call the roll, please.
I just had one minor note, though, right before. If we
Yes, sir.
could. Oh, yeah.
It's a
okay.
mistype.
That would make sense since
Yeah.
we're not to June 30, 2020 yet. So. All right. Well, thank you for catching that. So June 30, 2019. And if we could, I was just going to say, if we can update, we have the 2018 one on the homepage. If we can just update that to the new one. Then.
Oh, it's already on the website in the transparency section. I didn't realize the 18 was even on the front page.
Yeah. So
I guess
yeah.
we need to get rid of that one.
Well, throw 2019 up there so it's easier
Okay.
to find
All right.
at least two. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Councilperson Curley?
Yes.
Mayor Owens?
Yes.
Councilperson Baker?
Yes.
Next item is the adoption of resolution number 1893, hardship exemption. We have our city assessor, Mr. Edwards, here to explain this further to the residents and what this is about. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. This item is on the agenda tonight to fulfill the requirements under state laws, specifically MCL 211.7U, for a poverty exemption. The poverty exemption provides a property tax exemption in whole or part for the principal residence of persons who, by reason of poverty, are unable to contribute to the public charges. This is an annual item. It's something that the council has to adopt every year. The State Tax Commission lists 3 responsibilities that the local unit is supposed to do every year. Annually adopt guidelines, which specify the total household income which will be used to approve or deny the exemptions. The local unit must also adopt a policy that includes an asset test. I don't know if you guys remember last year, but we did make a change to the asset test and the way that it was calculated. Before it was a strict dollar amount. I can't remember what it was exactly off the top of my head, but
10,000.
we did change that to 10 times the tax levy. I don't believe that it had any impact on any of the applicants last year, but I think it was still a good change to improve the policy going forward, to be a little bit more proactive, that if the values did change over time, it would be something that we had already addressed in the past. So that was good. Lastly, it does say that that the local unit can limit the exemptions to either a total exemption or a partial exemption. The city, as long as I've been here, and I can't really state to when it started, but the policy has always been that at a bare minimum, the applicant, even if they qualified completely, still pay 3.5% of their annual income towards the property tax levy. So nobody will ever get, unless, I take that back, the Board of Review has the authority to grant a full exemption, but based on the policy and guidelines, 3.5% is what the minimum is. The board could grant a full exemption if the applicant does give substantial and compelling reasons why that they deserve a full exemption. So having said that, there was only the two changes that were made that were in the policy was the annual income threshold for the household, which we get every year. It's required by law to take from the Department of Health and Human Services from the federal government, so we just adopt those policy. It says it right in the law that you cannot adopt a standard lower than those numbers. Those are the minimum. So the city of Eastpointe adopts the already minimum amount. You could do higher, but we don't do that here. We've chosen to adopt the minimum. The other change, which is just was a change, I guess if you compare the applications from last year to this year, the only change was the homestead property tax credit from the state of Michigan changed from $1,200 to $1,500. That's the first time in my assessing career that I can recall that that number has changed, and that changed last year. So I think that's a good thing, seeing that I've been in assessing for over 16 years, and I've never seen that amount change. It's finally nice to see that change, to get a bump up. So I'm sure that, you know, the cost of living and inflation went into that, the state deciding to change that. So basically that is the two changes that we made for this year. We have already residents calling, wanting to get the applications, so we're waiting for the council to approve the updated resolution so we can get those applications printed and to the residents who have already requested them for the March Board of Review that's coming up.
Okay. Are there certain timeline they have to turn those applications in? And when that timeline is done, when is the next timeline they can turn them in?
So we accept them through the Board of Review. As long as the Board of Review is in session, somebody can come in and turn them in. They don't have to appear in person before the board, but they can if they choose. If an applicant does not make it for the March Board of Review, the next hearing would be in July, which is the third week of this, I'm sorry, it's the first Tuesday following the third Monday in July. And if they miss that one, their final opportunity to apply would be at the December Board of Review, which is in the second week of December. Once the December board concludes and adjourns, then there's no more applications accepted for, it would be 2020 this year, obviously. And you can only apply once. So if you go to the board and make your application in March, a decision is made on that, and then let's just say you get denied for whatever reason, your further appeal rights are to the Michigan Tax Tribunal. You can't appeal again to the local level.
When we talk about the timeline, is that from now to March? It closes in March?
Yes, so
like the dates.
if council adopts the resolution tonight, we will be printing them first thing in the morning.
Okay.
And any resident can come in and request one, or they can call and we can mail one out if they can't make it in. And those just would have to be returned before the conclusion of the March board, which this year it's March 10th and 11th. So March 11th by 9 p.m.
Is that on the website?
I do not believe so, not yet.
We'll work on that.
We'll work on that.
If you have any questions about that, you can talk to Mr. Edwards and come in to the assessor's office if you meet the requirements for this exemption. Council, you have any questions?
No.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to adopt resolution number 1893, which establishes a new hardship exemption policy and guidelines for the city consistent with state law and the recommendation of the city assessor for the use by the Eastpointe Board of Review.
I'll second that for my doppelganger.
Motion is supported. Call the roll, please.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilperson Curley?
Yes.
Mayor Owens?
Yes.
Councilperson Baker?
Yes.
The next item on
Madam Mayor, if I may, just one interjection. I would like to state that we still have a vacancy on the Board of Review as one of our regular members did move to a different community. So we have one regular member vacancy and 2 alternative members vacant. So if anybody's interested in serving on the Board of Review, that's a resident, you can submit your application to the city manager's office, but we really need to fill that vacancy so we have a 3rd member on the board.
That would be great. We have one that I'm thinking about is a licensed builder, Miss Sylvia Moore. So that's something you can think about. I put her on the spot, so.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So the next item is the removal of a Parks Commission member that was recommended by the Parks Commission.
Yeah, Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
my motion may sound a little weird compared to what's in writing, but I talked to the mayor during the break, and they do put the name of the person that the Parks Commission would like to remove because of attendance. But I feel very uncomfortable saying his name here and on television. I mean, I don't know if he's been here a year or 50 years or if he's healthy or dying from cancer. But I don't think we need to publicize the name. So I would move that the council remove the recommended person from the Parks Commission.
I'll support that.
Moved and supported. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Curley,
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido,
Yes.
Mayor Owens,
Yes.
Councilperson Baker,
Yes.
Councilperson DeMonico.
Yes.
Next item is proposed 2020 Community Development Block Grant, now called Bricks and Mortar Projects. Do you want to speak on this, Mr. Marucci, please?
I will, Mayor and members of council. This year, the program has been reorganized, I'd say in its entirety, in that there's 2 programs. One is the one for nonprofit groups, and the other one is what they've actually called the Bricks and Mortar. So in the past, the city has received approximately $125,000, $130,000. You've had public hearings, and money's been peeled away from that amount for the nonprofit groups. I remember Wigs the Kids teaching adults how to read, and there were several other ones that money would be allocated towards. Well, this year, based on a combination of population and there's a couple other factors, everyone gets an allocation for the nonprofit groups, and this year it's in my memo. It's just over 23,000. It's 23,087. So you'll have that money to allocate to the nonprofit groups, and then the Bricks and Mortar, which is now competitive, whereas before you received an allocation. Each community could be awarded up to $150,000. We will be submitting competitive applications for these, and they're due February 21st. So I wanted to bring to the manager's attention and to your attention that Jose Abraham, Steve Pangori, and I met last week and came up with 4 potential projects, and they're listed on the backside of my memo for possible bricks and mortar projects. 3 of them are reconstructions of streets, and I really say 3 of them, even though Holland and Wilmot we've wrapped into one. And the other one is Roxana Phase 2. The negative part about Roxana Phase 2 is if you look at the estimated construction cost, we'd be applying for less than what our potential could be for a street reconstruction. So I think it's fair to say that Mr. Abraham, Pangori, and myself believe this is a good potential project for a street reconstruction. And we've listed, again, I'll call it 3 streets because one wraps into the other. But you can see 2 of them have a rating of 2 and 2 have a rating of 3. So these are streets that would be on the slate to be reconstructed. So bringing it to your attention tonight to get direction so we can prepare the application for submittal no later than February 21st. And this would be on February 4th is the public hearing date for the nonprofit groups, so they'll be attending at that meeting. And my wish would be that tonight, after some discussion and hopefully a decision, we may not have to revisit the selection of a street. Maybe I don't remember what the new rules are. If you actually have to approve the submittal of the application, if that's the case, then we'll be dealing with it as soon as February 4th potentially.
I looked on here, and it looks like you had one of the streets, and those 9 streets were on here to fund, correct?
I did not see the memo until just a few minutes ago about the 9 streets, but we picked only 2s and 3s, and we tried to scatter them throughout the community.
It looked like I reviewed it earlier. I think you got one or two of these streets that's on the 9 streets that we talked about getting fixed.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, so that would help with funding that. Okay.
Yeah, I had I think a similar question, but not sure now, Mr. Marucci, if you'll be able to answer. But is it possible this was the list because these are the streets in the CDBG blocks? Because it has to be a project within the. The other ones might be outside of the CDBG eligible.
It's very clear. The CDBG blocks have been redrawn, and we've actually come up with the map, even though the county doesn't have one yet. But you have to be in what's called a CDBG low mod income area, and these projects are in those areas. And not only are they in the areas, we actually went through, even though you're in an area, depending on what the service level is, the whole intention is to serve the local community. So if it was a straight through street, let's just say it's Stevens, the Macomb County would say, we really don't want that one to be submitted because it doesn't serve neighborhoods. It serves as a cut through. It serves the whole area, low mod or not. So these are in the target areas.
Now, I know I talked to you before, Ms. Marucci, on the lead pipes and how we can use that money for lead pipes, and you said you have to do a survey, correct?
Correct. We think we have to do a survey. No one else is attempting. Mayor, the question you brought forward was, can we change out lead water service lines to people that we would be doing anyways with either water department fund or some other funds? And we think it can be done. No one has ever submitted this kind of project. And what the person who runs the program in Macomb County said, Joe, this would take at least a year to develop what the criteria would be. So it could be, and what compounds the problem is if we end up doing a water main project with local money, but we may have to actually do a survey of residents who have, for their income purposes, in order to see if they qualify. Our hope is, as we try to work on this program more and more, because this is a 2021 project, if the council wishes to do it, is to see if we can get a whole block group, what's in essence the areas where you can spend money, and see if we can just qualify the whole block group as a project area versus going to people and asking for their very, very personal information.
Right. So I asked Mr. Marucci because the bricks and mortar program and CDBG funds helps with funding certain areas. And so what we're working on, even though it might take a year, we're working on, and if it can be done, Eastpointe will be the first one to actually use this funding to fix lead pipes. And so hopefully we can do that, to fix the lead pipes to help, which was the idea. I came with Mr. Marucci, and he asked Macomb County. He said it had never been done before. I said, well, let's get it done then. And so we'll be working on that, right, Mr. Marucci?
I will be. And again, we'll be able to find out in the next 6 or 8 months to find out in terms of if it is eligible, how would it be eligible in terms of qualifying individuals or qualifying an entire 3 or 4 or 5 block area.
Okay.
What's called a census tract.
Sounds good. Council? Got any questions or anything, or?
Should we pick a project now? I know it says no recommended motion, right? So,
Right.
but
I don't know if you had any additional questions or things to
I think
say.
either one with a pacer rating of 2, so, I mean, the worst rates I tackle first, so.
let's do the first
Yeah.
one.
Well, most of them are the 9, some of it is the 9 streets we talked about earlier, so we can reconstruct it instead of resurfacing it and get the money for it. It makes sense. Next item.
Remember,
Sorry?
whatever project you choose, it's up to $150,000. So
Correct.
we purposely listed what the total cost would be. We'd have to come up with the balance.
Correct. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is for our finance director. Did you want to take E and F for the adoption of the resolution and talk about the deficit elimination plan for the capital improvement and the court building fund?
Yes.
Thank you.
Every year when the audit is submitted to the state treasury, they review it to see if there are any funds that are in a deficit situation. Per state law, they then notify the community who has to come up with a deficit elimination plan. This came out of all the EMs and financial troubles that cities were having, and it was a way for Treasury to stay on top of problems before they got large. They're geared mainly for the ones that have general fund deficits, of which we do not, but any fund still has to have a deficit elimination plan put together. and approved by the governing board of whatever community. This fiscal year of 2019, we had two funds that were in a deficit. One is it's called Capital Improvement Fund. That's where we run the sidewalk program out of. This is just a timing issue. We did the work in May and June, expended the money, and did not bill the residents until August and September. As of December 31st, there is no deficit in that particular fund. It was just, like I said, it's timing between when we did the work and paid the contractor and when we were able to bill and collect to the residents. That is the first one. The second one is a court building fund, and on every ticket there is a $5 or $10 building fund charge. That money is then used to maintain the court building. We had been trying to build funds up for a heating and cooling system over at the court. Unfortunately, if you remember, we had an emergency breakdown and had to spend about $350,000 last May. That put this particular fund into a deficit. The general fund loaned money to the court building fund, and it is on a 30-month payback schedule. So that particular fund is going to be in a deficit for 2 more years before the fund digs its way out and gets itself back to not having a deficit. And it is acceptable by Treasury to have up to a 5-year plan to take care of your deficits, but there will be annual reviews to make sure that we are on track. Like I said, the first one already done. It was just a timing issue, not a problem. And the court one will take a couple years to fix itself. If you have any other questions?
That, of course, I guess for the court one, if we have any other projects already in the budget, that's fine. This would just cover fixing that regardless of what we already have in our capital improvement.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Barring any more court emergencies, we'll be fine.
Knocking on wood. All right, Madam Mayor, then I'll motion that we adopt resolution, let's see, which 1894 first, authorizing the deficit elimination plan for the capital improvement fund.
Support.
Moved and supported. Please call the roll.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Councilperson Curley?
Yes.
Mayor Owens?
Yes.
Councilperson Baker?
Yes.
And then how about motion to adopt resolution number 1895, authorizing the deficit elimination plan for the court building fund.
Support.
Moved and supported. Please call the roll.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Councilperson Curley?
Yes.
Mayor Owens?
Yes.
Councilperson Baker?
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is the adoption of resolution number 1896, charitable gaming license, Friends of the Eastpointe Library.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I happen to be the representative for the Library Commission. What they're looking for is a gaming license to have a 50-50 drawing at one of their April fundraisers at the library. They don't know exactly what date the fundraiser will be, but I'll keep you posted for that. But they need a license from the state in order to have a 50-50 license.
Yes, sir.
So I would move that the council approve the request for charitable game license for the Friends of the Eastpointe Library.
Support.
Moved and supported. Thank you, Mr. Crowley. Please call the roll.
Madam Mayor, real quick, I saw the director of the library is here. I didn't know if
Oh, yeah, did
she's
you want to
been,
speak, Director?
Would you like to come up and talk about what we talked about today?
She's talking while we're
And
talking.
she's hiding.
So she doesn't know. Now, in the library, you got to be quiet, and so do you have to in the city council as well. Do you want to say anything on this? No. Okay.
right.
Did I do all right?
Just was curious.
Okay.
Thank you. Moved and supported. Call the roll, please.
Councilperson Curley?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Mayor Owens?
Yes.
Councilperson Baker?
Yes.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
We are at payroll and bills.
Madam Mayor, I motion to pay the bills in the amount of $2,911,465.23.
Support.
Moved and supported a couple times.
I think everybody.
Yeah, I think.
27 cents.
Get rid of that money.
That's an addition to correction, 27 cents.
27, oh, Sorry, 27 cents?
23.
Is it 20?
23.
27, yeah.
We have different numbers.
27
finance
for,
director say?
for the
Back
operation.
page, 23 cents.
Yeah, I have 23 cents.
Okay, finance director and city manager, who wins?
23 cents. The 27 is
Okay.
for the general stuff. It doesn't include payroll.
Okay, 23 cents. Corrected, not corrected. Ms. Lucido had it right. Please.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Councilperson Curley?
Yes.
Mayor Owens?
Yes.
Councilperson Baker?
Yes.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Now we're at the second hearing of the public. Would anybody like to say anything? Please, yes, ma'am.
I would stay longer, but you ain't got no heat and my lupus is full. Man, it's
Can you pull the microphone down a little bit, please?
my mouth's so big I figure you hear me without it.
No, I can't.
So, you know, I don't want anybody to think I'm trying to be mean, but I know every word of the Constitution. And what I see is scary. You know, like saying Madam Mayor. Have you looked up the principal definition of the word madam? You don't want to know. And I never heard anybody call, what's that lady name? Pixley. I never heard her call madam. I would stop them from calling me that when you look up and see what it really means. And listen, we need more chairs. Because she says more people are coming. And the one thing that people are going to find out, the power is in the hands of the people, not their dais. Under the problems that we've been having, I've been seeing constitutionally, I contacted all the State Department, anybody could talk to, and I found out some statutes and stuff that kind of regulates what's going on there. Don't care what you got in the charter. If it's something unconstitutional or a conflict of interest, like what I see, I'd be scared as heck every time y'all do something. So here's what they say we need to do. This is coming from people who know what they're talking about. They say we're supposed to have a special meeting, whatever, hearing or council meeting, to discuss all the issues that everybody, see, you don't hear it up there, but we hear it out here, what people don't like. It says it's supposed to be not the city council nor the mayor. It has to be run by an independent, which would be the new city manager, Ms. El-Kidoum. She's supposed to chair it. And here's what they say we mostly supposed to do. We're supposed to discuss establishing an autonomous city council and mayor independent of each other and change the charter if we have to. Discuss establishing a 5-member council with 1 at-large member. Discuss establish a city council president that's elected once a year and presides over the hearings and sets the agenda, because I'm scared when I see the mayor doing all this stuff. Mayor Taylor, the FBI said he had $209,000 in his stock drawer. Because when you mix it up too much, it's not good. It never was good, but now in this computer age, just change one number and they
Have 30 seconds, ma'am.
robbed everybody in the city. And we're going to have to discuss eliminating the office of mayor and just having a city manager and a 5-member council. They're doing it all over the country. We don't really need that. Then we got to discuss recall. They don't have any power up there. The power is with the people. Every 90 days, we can change everybody sitting up there. And the final thing, I went to God's office. I went right there in the city manager. I said,
You're done, Ms. Timmons.
I want to talk to God. That's what I said. He wasn't there.
You're
He don't
done,
have a
Ms.
contract.
Timmons.
Oh, it's up?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, thank you. But I couldn't find God, though. He wasn't there.
Thank you, Ms. Timmons. Yes, ma'am.
Mary Hall Rayford, Eastpointe resident. At least I think I'm still in Eastpointe. And I say that again because it looks like lately every time we turn around, we want to bring Detroit into Eastpointe. And I'm having a real problem with that. I love a small city because people get to know one another. They get to care about one another. And one of the reasons I left Detroit was because of all the nonsense and the violence. Perception is everything. And Code 22 in Eastpointe gives the world the perception that Eastpointe has a problem with violence, and I have yet to hear anyone talk about an excessive violent situation. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get over a cold, so it's extremely difficult for me to talk. But we have to stop and think about what we're doing and the kind of perception we give everyone else. If this is going to be Eastpointe, let it be Eastpointe. And anybody has a problem with that and want Detroit at Eastpointe, they need to go back to Detroit. Because I'm really tired. I talk to a lot of people on a daily basis, and I know where they're coming from. I put out a survey. I sent every one of you the results of that survey. Even though there were some people who tried to trick the website. Technology is greater than that. And what I encourage you to do, with everything in me, stop thinking we have to be somebody we are not, and take care of business for Eastpointe. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Gladney, Eastpointe resident. I'm gonna try to move quickly. So these are all the issues that we discussed today within the meetings thus far. And one of the things, Mayor, that you mentioned about hiring a grant writer. Now, I just want to say this. Mr. Baker, you're out of this, but Mr. Bloom, Mr. Kirby, Mayor, Sarah, and don't kill me.
Run the Beautification Commission together.
You all have been here for some years. And whatever happened to you all coming together with your resources that you had before today? You all been sitting on city council for quite some time. So some resources you should already have to get some money. To get the money that the city of Eastpointe need, you should have something before you all go out spending more money. And so that leads me to the question, what have you really been doing? Because you're supposed to have something. So go back to the basis and pull those resources that you had up until this point before Mayor Pickley retired and before you became mayor, sitting on city council. That's one of the things. The second thing, the community links, as far as the IT and the tech. I've been here 11 years. When I go click on that TV, I have seen updates. What happened? Listen, just because we have a new mayor don't mean everybody fall and get laxy-go-daisy. That means you still be about your business. So it's some things you might have to critique it. But you don't have to change the plan. Add some things to it. Quit trying to spend so much money that every time I hear you speak as a mayor or city council, you're saying we don't have. So if the IT person is not doing his or her job, maybe it's time to look somewhere else. Or maybe it's time to do a bid for what you really need. The same thing we're gonna talk about for these streets, the quality. I don't care who you hire, it's the quality that they put down. Just like we was talking about plowing the streets. Okay, well, does that mean, I wish you was at the PACE meeting for one of the residents who did a very good example, but does that mean that the residents that we have here, as far as the city workers, are taking their job for granted? And what I mean by that they're not putting
30
their all
seconds,
in it
ma'am.
or the quality in it. We need the quality workers. So maybe you might want to do a bid. Not saying that the people that we have are not doing excellent, but maybe you do a bid with some more people that we need, okay? And last but least, the resident who spoke about having a petition, I don't agree with that. So the only thing I ask you, Mayor, can you truly make sure before everybody say yes, 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 that this is something that's gonna benefit the residents?
Your time is up, ma'am. Thank
Okay.
you.
And I'm walking away, but prayer is much needed. So I disagree with
Thank you, ma'am. That's enough, Ms. Gladney. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is John Braddock again. I just have to keep going with Miss Gladney. I have to add on to it because I mean, talking with my neighbors and friends out in the hallway and stuff, and you know, and I hear you say you got a contract coming up. You know, we might need. You know, I know you drive out and you check people's yard to make sure the grass cut or whatever. Maybe, you know, I've heard a friend of mine in Eastpointe talking about how fast they go and throw snow all the way up on his sidewalk too, and he has to do extra work. So if people are not doing their jobs, it's like it's not a good thing, you know. So it's really, I think that's we all suffer when people don't do their jobs. So that's please consider that. You know, regardless of what's going on, you know, I hope everybody do their job, and I hope that everybody don't have a problem with asking other folks to do their jobs. So y'all look out for us, all right? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and the council. After listening to these people have had enough too. You know, as I'm looking at it right now, we did all that work on our parks here, I think just about 5 years ago. And we didn't get what we paid for. We put riders out, we didn't have a contract. You know, I'm beginning to wonder, as I said before too, I'm not trying to put the blame on anybody right now. But the thing about it is I found out when you don't have it in writing, we're in trouble. A contract's a contract. And we're talking about right now, as I said before too, our parks themselves, we're going to have to go ahead and rebuild what we had done 5 years ago. Our streets, are we going to do the same thing? You know, if we don't cement them and we just cap them, we don't get the right people to do the job, we've thrown money away again. So what's going to be our procedure? Are we going to do it right? Are we going to do it wrong? There's so many things right now that the people, the citizens, and everybody has got to look forward to. And maybe it's not going down right now just to the council and to the mayor. As I said, you know, it's going to take everybody to get back together again. It's going to take some town hall meetings. And some of these people right now, they're wanting to see this. And I'm saying it right now, and they're trying to say it's time for the city, and when I say the city, I mean all the residents, to get together and come together. We don't need backdoor. The same as bring the school systems. Bring the school systems, bring the city, bring the residents, bring us all together. We're not going to come up with the same ideas. We all know this because I've been trying, you know, to bring somebody on my side for quite some time. I have persuaded a few people to come with me. And I said, then again, too, I've made some friends, I've made some enemies. But everybody, in reality, the end result, everybody wants the same thing. Harvey, for a typical example, is run our car shows. He was out and he's back in again, too. But he's come back in because he thought he could make a difference. And I think he is going to make a difference. We have everybody that sits up there right now, this council and mayor, attorneys, and the residents. We put this all together. It's time for the people themselves. I don't want to fight anymore.
30 seconds.
I'm tired of fighting. But if it comes down to it, I can fight with the best of them. And you all know the same thing about it. It's time for us. Now let's try to put it back together. And we have a meeting. Call everybody. Don't close the doors. Let's all talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else would like to say anything? Seeing none, the second hearing of the public is closed. We are going to mayor and council reports, starting with Councilman Baker.
All right. Well, I'm not very active on social media. I heard references made to it, but one thing that I started doing with friends of mine and people that I connect with is something that I call a word of the day. I would put a little picture, put a little phrase just to do something positive. So in keeping up with that, my word for today is thankful. I am thankful for the opportunity to serve in a community with diverse people where we can work together for the betterment of the community. I'm thankful for the chance to discuss different ideas in a peaceful manner. And even when we disagree, I'm thankful that we can do so without being disagreeable. That's all I have.
Beautiful, thank you. Councilman Crowley?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple things. The library is going to have a fundraiser on March 24th. Mark that down, March 24th at the Cloverleaf. And who doesn't like Cloverleaf pizza? And the money be used to further activities for the library. And as I told you before, they're going to have a date in April where they're going to have a 50-50 drawing at the library plus games and things like that. The resolution that we voted on, Proclamation, about the No Violence Day, as I half-kiddingly said, it's tomorrow. And it would be nice if we all thought about what we do and what we say and even what you think. And one of the suggestions I have, and you don't have to do it tomorrow, but if you want to do love, how many are you familiar with the Vets Returning Home? They have a place down here, thank you, on 11 Mile and Gratiot. Used to be the old Red Cross, I think, years and years and years ago. Well, they house vets returning home. Don't know exactly what they need, but you know what? They need something. I don't know if it's clothes or food, but it wouldn't hurt you to drive down there and say, hey, I'm from Eastpointe. What do you need? You need clothes? You need food? Whatever. And that would make my day. That would really please me that I knew that our residents cared enough about other folks to travel down there and say, vets, God bless you for what you did for our country. And there's some people there that are suffering mentally. There's some people there with one arm and one leg. Need I say more? Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Curley. Councilwoman Mayor Pro Tem Clara Lucido.
Well, first of all, I'd like to start out by reminding everyone that the Arts and Cultural Diversity Committee is hosting a cultural spotlight February 8th right here at City Hall from 1 to 3 p.m. I really encourage everyone to come out. There will be activities for kids there. It should be a really great event. They've been very successful with some of the events. They had a very successful Stratmark Day and so on and so forth. And I'd also like to make sure I thank them for writing the proclamation for Black History Month because I think they did a fantastic job. They did a lot better job than I think I would have done. So I do want to give credit to them for composing that, especially to April. And then with yesterday being Martin Luther King Day, I'd like to take the opportunity to recognize some of his accomplishments. You know, at the age of only 26 years old, Dr. King organized the Montgomery bus boycott. It was a monumental task for a man his age, and that surely wasn't easy. If it wasn't for a lot of his efforts, you know, we don't always remember, with Martin Luther King Day, it gives us a chance to. You know, in 1964, we passed the Civil Rights Act, and in 1965, we passed the Voting Rights Act. And because of those great accomplishments, you know, now we have people of all color who can be mayors and police chiefs and judges and, you know, so on and so forth. So I really just want to make sure I take a minute to pay him a little tribute also. And that is all I have for this evening.
That was beautiful. Thank you for doing that. He's back.
Yes.
As you know, he's back when he has questions and questions. That means he cares. Welcome back, Mr. DeMonico, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I think I jinxed myself a couple meetings ago when I said I'd been to 100 regular meetings in a row as a council person. It ended right at exactly 100, I believe, because it's November and December of, let's see, what would that have been, 2015, and then I was here all through 16, 17, 18, 19, and then missed our first 2020 meeting because I ruptured a brain aneurysm. Had no idea I even had one, but I was just, for anyone that didn't know, the day after Christmas, I just woke up for work, just essentially getting ready for work. A headache comes on. At first, it just felt like a normal headache, and then just turned into the worst pain I've ever imagined. Went unconscious. Luckily, my wife Alyssa was awake at the time. Usually she's not up that early, but she had something to do that morning. Actually on Facebook, because we've been talking about Facebook, she was doing something for an event. And so she called 911, and our people are phenomenal. By the time I woke up, I was, I think, unconscious for like 5-10 minutes. Police officer was already at our house. Fire department showed up right after. Thank you to all them. Joe Zangara, he was a firefighter that showed up, and somehow when I woke up, I recognized Alyssa, and then I recognized Joe Zangara. I was like, oh, hey, Joe, I have no idea what just happened, but, we're telling them what happened. And then MedStar showed up. At this time, we didn't know what had happened to me. I walked out to the ambulance, and then, they said, okay, where you want to go? Went to St. John's, and they all did a phenomenal job. So I've never had first person experience with our medical services. They all did a fantastic job. St. John's did a fantastic job. I've got a few coils in my head now. They did a CAT scan, and so got a few like platinum coils, I guess, in my brain now, and stopped the bleeding. And I was at the hospital for 14 days. So thank you to everyone in the community. I got a lot of cards from a lot of people in the community. People commented on Facebook. I'd posted, thank you, City Manager Elke, for reading my comments last meeting. Feeling really good now. Just been trying to take somewhat easy, and was feeling good enough, so I wanted to come to the council meeting. So yeah, just thank you to everybody that was very nice to me, and sent cards and all that. So, and I know there's a lot of other things I want to comment on. I think I'll just hit a few, or else I'll be keeping you guys here till 10:30. Just want to thank Natalie, who does our audio visual. She's been with the city for 6 years, and she'll be quitting, leaving the city. Just want to say thanks to her, and want to touch on Miss Timon here. I want to touch on Martin Luther King. I don't know, how you said Martin Luther King is a fraud. He is one of the most patriotic Americans we've ever had in the country, ever. As Miss Lucido just said, I don't want to repeat anything she said, but he did so much and made sure to do, help others and make sure that everybody had the same rights in the country, no matter who you were. So just wanted to touch on that, and I made some more comments on Facebook. If anyone's on there, check out my comments on there. And I'd just like to just touch, I think maybe just the only other thing I want to comment on is the snow. We live in Michigan, and there are certain expectations from the city, and, it was mentioned by a couple people, our sidewalk is not up to par here at City Hall. But in general, let's just try and help each other. I'm not allowed to shovel snow according to my doctor. I've got two great neighbors. I talked to them, thanks Lavelle and Katara on the one side and Mike and Lauren on the other side. They each did a little bit for me. Let's try and get our neighbors to help us. I know it was an unusual snowstorm. It rained, and, we've got big chunks of ice, which is not usual either at the end of our driveways, but we're doing the best we can. I appreciate the constructive criticism. Let's try and get our neighbors to help. We do ticket vehicles if they're parked out there. I think Mr. Rohib said 53 vehicles.
It's
I think
52. We had
52 vehicles.
During the snow emergency, we had over 160 calls for service, and we prioritized them. But the officers were out, and they were ticketing vehicles, and they did hit, I believe, 52 vehicles they cited.
So we do ticket vehicles. Of course, as Mr. Rohib said, we have other calls. We try to do the best we can there, and we'll try to do the best we can to fix the snow then around those vehicles once, they're moved and things like that. But, if we can try all to work together and do it, that'd be great. And I think that's everything I wanted to comment on.
Everything,
Thank
okay.
you. So, but feeling better. Thank you, everybody. Yeah.
Well, first I want to thank everybody for staying and coming out. It grows. When I first became council, it was like the same people showing up. We got more people interested in their community, and I am so happy about that. I'm glad about Ovella Davis coming out with Nonviolence Day. That is something that we should try to do everywhere. I don't care if you're in Detroit, to California, to Eastpointe. Nobody is better than the next, and violence is happening everywhere. Also for the Cultural Commission doing Black History, writing it up. I know we talked about it last year. I brought it up last year, and we did it this year. So I'm glad about that. Also, the MLK breakfast that was yesterday, given by the Minister of Alliance. I was one of the guest speakers with the governor, so I was happy about that. The experience was amazing. I was actually happy to talk about Martin Luther King's struggles and my struggles as well, and my struggles that I deal with to this day. And so, in pretty much collaborating those and letting people know the similarities that we still face 57 years into this present. Also, the State of the City will be coming up at the Eastpointe Manor. You can find out what our goals will be. The managers I will be speaking at the State of the City along with the director and the superintendent. And some of the goals will be coming from the directors and also the council to collaborate that introduction. So I invite you to come out. I believe the tickets are $20. Also, I went to go visit the Eastpointe High School. They invited me. And we spoke, me and my publicist went out and we talked to the high school basketball team. I went to the locker room and I gave them a heads up about, not quitting, and told them don't give up, because at first they were in the lead, they stayed in the lead, but then they got comfortable. And I told the young men, never get comfortable until you're done. And they played well, and I couldn't stay the whole time because I stayed for the first game for one group of people, and then I stayed for the first half of them. So I spoke to both groups, took pictures with them, and I called early in the morning and said, how did my kids do? And they actually won. So Eastpointe High Schoolers, they are an amazing group of players, and we got to go support our kids. Also, I want to welcome back again Kari DeMonico. I visited him in the hospital, me and my assistant. I was actually in Atlanta when I found out that you were in the hospital, and once I got off the plane, I came to visit you. I don't know if you remember that, but me and my assistant came to visit you to make sure you were okay. Also, I want to congratulate the city manager for she just had twins. You didn't have twins. Her daughter had. Look, she came back to. I feel good. Her daughter had twins, and so she had a boy and a girl. So congratulations, being a newer grandmother, because I know you were a grandmother before.
Yes.
And I also want to congratulate the finance director. He will be having 2 new grandkids coming up too. I know they look young, so I want to say that, and also. Thank you. And also, I want to comment about, I think a young lady stated that since we've been on council, what are the resources that we've done? And I believe my resume speaks volumes. If I go into it, we'll be doing we'll be into next week. But just to point out some of the things that I've seen my colleagues do, Kari DeMonico has also always been on the IT. He's always been on the water, about making sure people pay less in their water bills. He's always been on that and goes to the conferences and studies what we should be doing in policy making and things like that. Sarah Lucido always been on the Parks Commission and always making sure that the splash pad and going to all these commissions and things, and also taking her kids to these commissions to make sure she's doing her job. And she also was on the tax reversion commission to make sure we can stop blight in the city. So I don't agree when people say we're not doing our job. I think we do an amazing job here. We are people too, and we have children too, and we have feelings too. So when you guys go up there and talk certain things, I wish you guys would think about what you say to the people who are giving up their time, their energy, and time away from their kids and their families, and took this job to serve you. And so that being said, can I get A motion to adjourn,
So
please.
moved.
Thank you.
Support.
I have motion and support. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Curley,
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido,
Yes.
Councilperson Baker,
Yes.
Councilperson DeMonico,
Yes.
Mayor Owens.
Yes. Meeting adjourned. Thank you. I was like, they're like, she just had a baby.
That was hilarious.
I'm telling
I'm
you,
like,
I spring back
Yeah,
very
you
quickly.
really do.
oh, Mr. Baker, can you sign this?
So what's going on? Oh my God, I had twins.
What ordinance?
What a wonderful day. Isn't that a wonderful day for my baby?
Is it an ordinance of child zoning that allows people to do 42 vendors?
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, well, we we can sit down and address that because you want a lot of information that we don't have right in front of us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but some of that is they have to be at certain locations and they do have to pay. So if you write all that down and email